Here we are.
What's up, Sifters? Sorry for the rough start there. We're a little out of practice. We were actually completely petrified that the TriCaster was really broken after all, but it seems to be working okay.
Yeah, I mean, there have been some shifts in the equipment, so the buttons that worked before do not necessarily work the same way now.
Oh, there's been lots of shifts right here, let me tell you. I mean, you can just tell by looking behind us that we're still not really up to speed. We're calling this the zombie episode of GameFace because it is back from the dead.
But we've got all our Pokemon.
Yeah.
Nobody
wanted
took the Pokemon.
No one wanted Pikachu for whatever reason. Yeah, it's been a really crazy week and a half. Just want to start off by once again thanking everybody for their support. It's been incredible and humbling to see the response from everybody. It sucks what happened to kind of make all the chain reactions be what they were. And coming back in today to shoot the show is really hard. I haven't spent a lot of time here since everything happened. It just feels really weird being here. You feel like you've kind of been violated a little bit. Just seeing the whole place disheveled and torn up, and yeah. But we're moving forward. E3 is right around the corner, literally right around the corner. It actually kind of worked out for us that the show's been delayed because some crazy stuff has happened over the last, 2 days. It's like right. I was looking at a lot of the podcasts and video casts over the last couple of days that have been recorded earlier in the week, and they have a lot of old or false information in them at this point. A lot of predictions for things that have already been proven that were going to happen or weren't going to happen. So it's kind of cool that we're getting this show in right under the gun before E3 starts. Only really gives the show a day of shelf life, though, I would say that.
Yeah, but everybody's got to do something tomorrow, right?
We're doing the best we can, by the way. The cameras never came in, so Sam, our TriCaster operator, was very nice to loan us one of his cameras. It's only a one-camera show, unfortunately. We literally were setting this stuff up, at the last minute. As you saw, we had a couple false starts to try to start the show. But we are here, and we're actually having a show, which feels good. Feels good to kind of get back in the saddle and get things going just in time for E3, I might add. So right off the top, there's just a couple little stories we want to mention before we get into the big six. The first one is, big story broke today, no PlayStation 4 Neo at E3.
That's a weird one.
Yeah, Sony did announce, kind of, Andrew House, that
yes, it's real.
Coming.
It's real, but you can't see it.
Yeah, they're not showing it at E3. You think that's a good idea, Matt? I mean, let's start on the premise, first of all, that it was ready and they could have shown it, which may not be the case. But let's operate under that premise.
I mean, I guess the argument can be made that it'd be confusing to consumers, especially depending on when they're going to launch it. But, if you don't do it now, when do you do it?
Yeah. I mean, look, there's so many shows. There's Gamescom, and, they have PSX and all that stuff, but
this is where you've got CNN and everybody's eyes on
and Yahoo and every major publication around the world, not just in America. It does seem like a missed opportunity. And then the other side of that is, what if Microsoft shows off the Scorpion or whatever the hell it is that they're calling their next
Xbox Hank Scorpio.
Yeah, or whatever it is. Microsoft kind of has a chance to steal the show a little bit here, don't you think?
Sort of. I mean, if by stealing the show you mean here's your opportunity to spend a lot more money on a thing that should have been in the first place.
Or on a thing that nobody wanted or doesn't seem to want right now.
Here, spend a lot of money on a box that you can play everything on it on Windows 10.
Yeah.
At least PlayStation Neo has some stuff you can't play on your computer.
Yeah. Well, they did announce today there was a rumor floating around that Halo 5 was going to go to the PC, and Microsoft came out today and said, no, that's not the case. Although, I don't know how much I believe that, but...
Yeah. And even if it is, oh, phew.
Yeah. It would look if
you can stay in the entertainment center now, Xbox One.
Yeah, but I think for a lot of people who maybe only own an Xbox One, seeing all these exclusives go to PC is kind of like daggers to the heart. Yeah. It's like they made their decision. They, a lot of people enjoyed their Xbox 360 last gen, and they're like, I'm going to support Microsoft again. And a lot of people are burned or are feeling burned. So,
certainly am.
To see the exclusives go away, when you look back on the decision you made, you're like, well, crap, man.
I would gladly play Scalebound on my Xbox One, but if there's a PC version, I'm going to play that.
And most people would if they have a decent PC.
If you have the choice, not everybody does, but I'm going to. And to me, as someone who played 360 a lot last gen, it's disappointing.
It is, yeah. So let's get back to PlayStation 4 Neo. We don't want to spend a ton of time on this because we have so much to get to. We literally have, it's the longest rundown we've ever had, maybe. We're going to talk about a ton.
At least since last E3.
Yeah. We're going to talk about a ton of games on this show. So let's operate under the premise now that the machine wasn't done. Is that a surprise to you? Because, developers had the documentation for this thing months and months ago. And
Yeah. I mean, I would think, I'm expecting this E3 to be kind of a VR blowout for Sony, and, as such, you would think you'd want your new hardware that's kind of, whether they admit it or not, designed to run the VR properly alongside it. So I wonder what happened. I mean,
it could still come out in Q4.
It could still be Q4. I mean, there's time to produce the units, at least an initial shipment for the holiday season. But it's surprising to me that it would be surprising to me that if it wasn't done, because it's not like E3 is a shock.
Yeah.
You know it's coming. You know when it is. So, but production problems are inevitable, as we just saw at the top of the show.
Yeah. The other interesting thing that Andrew House mentioned today was that they are not going to discontinue the old PlayStation 4. Mm-hmm. It is going to live alongside the Neo, or whatever it's ultimately called. That, to me, was a big surprise.
Yeah, I would have expected them to kind of phase it out. So, not pull it from the shelves, but
lower the price, liquidate it, and then just have Neo come in and
Neo
take over.
Neo be the new PlayStation 4. Yeah. So if that's not the plan, I wonder how much. Maybe that is the plan, and they just don't want to tell people that are thinking about buying a PS4, go ahead and go out and buy the obsolete model.
That could be.
Not something you want to announce until, you've already got Christmas money,
Takes a big chunk out of the hype for E3 for me. I mean, even though it wasn't is there going to be a new controller? I wasn't wondering any of that. Mm-hmm. But I do want to see the form factor and see how they present it. And I wanted to see the first games running on it. Maybe show us Uncharted 4 running on it.
Yeah.
Because we all have a frame of reference for that game. And if they show it running on the Neo, you can be wow, I can see the difference. Yeah. So it definitely takes some steam out of E3. And we'll get to the steam of E3 later on in the show. That's something I kind of want to discuss as well. But let's move on. Persona 5 delayed into early next year.
Mm-hmm. Fantasy Draft dead in the water.
Dead, completely.
Hippity-hoppity, Bloodborne's on its way.
Yeah, it sure is. I'm already dreading that. I really don't want to do it at all. But yeah, my fantasy team
it's going to be a ton of fun.
My fantasy team is done. And it really sucks, too, because I was talking to a rep from Atlas not that long ago, and he swore to me that it was coming out this year in the U.S.,
Yeah.
I mean, long after I had drafted it or whatever, but we were hanging out in line waiting to get in, and I was like, Persona coming out? And he's like, oh, it's coming out. It'll make it this year. And I was like, are you sure? And he's like, oh, yeah, you're good. No.
Nope.
It's not going to miss it by much either. My two games are not missing it by much.
No, and Horizon Zero Dawn is one of mine, and we're missing that same amount.
Yeah, Andromeda is coming out a month or two after the year turns over, and the same case with Persona 5.
Horizon, they're all February 2017 is going to be a good month.
Yeah, someone said it on Sifted this week. Q1's the new Q4. Maybe we need to adjust our draft year, so it'll account for that. But
change the draft for this year to draft 2017, like Madden.
Right.
To spill over.
Yep. So a new game was debuted this week, Agents of Mayhem. Mm-hmm. New game from the studio behind Saints Row.
Set in the Saints Row universe.
Saints Row universe. Looks like a next-gen Saints Row to me. I wouldn't be surprised if ultimately it really is just a Saints Row game.
Yeah, well, it looks like a future in which the Saints Row gang has become like a high-tech Agents of Mayhem team or something. And they're fighting a guy who's sort of a supervillain Bond kind of comic book scientist guy. I mean, I like it. He's also sort of a wizard. I like it.
Do you like the Saints Row games? I guess we should start there.
I do like the Saints Row game.
I feel like they're an underappreciated series of games.
The fandom is of two minds on it, but I prefer the Saints Row games as they get crazier.
Yeah.
Because I know there's people that think Saints Row 2 is like the pinnacle because that was the straightest.
Right.
They played it while differentiating it itself from GTA more than the first one did. But for me, I thought they were on the right track in Saints Row the Third, where they got pretty weird, and then when Saints Row 4, where they just went completely batshit crazy. I loved that game.
See, I could maybe understand back when Saints Row 2 came out having that perspective, because back then there weren't that many open world games.
Right.
And so, to say, okay, I want something different from GTA, at that point you're a beggar, and beggars can't be choosers. So to me, Saints Row 2, I can understand why people would say that's their favorite, because back then it didn't matter whether it was different from GTA, they just needed more open world games.
Yeah.
Now, the perspective is different because open world is like the status quo at this point. And so, like, I would much prefer something more tongue-in-cheek, something a little more, I mean, not that GTA isn't tongue-in-cheek, but something a little more outlandish and over the top as kind of an antithesis of that.
If I were Volition and I was going to try to, like, please both camps, I would do what looked like a total reboot to, like, you know, back to basics, Saints Row 2 kind of stuff, but the characters all know it's a reboot.
Yeah,
and they're all
they're self-aware.
They're all self-aware, and they're all irritated. They can't like fly and shoot fireballs and stuff through the whole thing. And like as the game goes on, they start cheating.
Yeah.
And by the end, it's just as crazy as it was before because all the characters refuse to like be restrained by these rules, and so it goes even further afield by the end of it.
I'm really surprised to see this game debuted before E3 because look, we get lots of game debuts the week before E3. There's been a ton of them that have been on Sifted. But this one wouldn't have got swallowed up by E3. Like, people still would have noticed this game.
And it seems like a game that, like, it's a no-brainer for either Microsoft or Sony to premiere this at their press conference. It seems like somebody could have made a deal to, you know, blow it out at one of the press conferences.
Which makes me wonder if, you know, they fished the game around and had no takers.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, we're not getting in a press conference. Maybe they would get swallowed up if they aren't in a press conference then.
Maybe with this, I mean, I'm excited about it because I trust these guys to make something I enjoy playing. I don't think this trailer really sets the world on fire.
Yeah.
You know, it's
a CG trailer, right?
Yeah.
It's not in-game.
And CG trailers, you know, I think at the very least the core enthusiast audience, which is most of the people watching this show, most of the people watching the press conferences, live streams, I would think. I think they're wise to CG trailers. I think we don't trust this stuff anymore to the same degree.
You're right.
And like it's like we look at it's like, okay, cool, the art design, the game, the player design, whatever. But show me the game.
Yeah.
You know,
and I'm sure we'll get a demo.
And we'll see
some
something.
way, shape, or form. They'll put out like a developer walkthrough or something like that. But I don't know. I'm pretty much an auspicious debut for me. I'm
glad Volition's got something in the pipeline. Like I'll play anything those guys make, basically. Yep. I really enjoy their sensibility.
Yep. So rumors swirling this week: Devil May Cry 5 maybe shown at E3.
Yeah, and I actually noticed something. I don't know if you saw that. Like, there's a top secret Muso game is being shown by Koei, and like all it is like a text thing that says like, you know, I guess it says like the baddest game, which is like I guess actually translates as like the evilest game or something.
Yeah.
And the Japanese text is very reminiscent of the Devil May Cry.
Oh, really?
Black with glowing red behind it. There's a lot of people that think it's a Berserk game, like
which would be awesome.
On
like,
the manga,
like the old school.
Based on Berserk and like super like M-rated, like bloody, like the bloodiest Muso game ever made.
Well, I think
so it could be that too.
I think
but it really reminded me of Devil May Cry, the font they're using.
Well, I think Koei Tecmo has gone on record saying it is going to be like the bloodiest one ever.
Yeah.
That it's going to be like hyper violent, like, and I think that's debuted tomorrow.
Yeah, maybe? I mean Berserk would make sense for that.
So
but like. I mean, it just reminded me of Devil May Cry, but maybe Devil May Cry 5 is just on my mind.
Yeah.
Because somebody had Devil May Cry 5 on their resume, a voice actor or something.
Yeah. That's usually a pretty good sign.
A lot of leaks come through resumes. I mean, if it doesn't come from Amazon Europe, it comes from a resume a lot of times.
Now, do you want DMC 5 to go back in-house in Japan, or do you want it to be developed in the West like the last one?
I don't know.
That's a tough one.
I really don't. Like, I don't know who. It depends who they're going to give it to. I mean, I know most people would say like give it to Platinum.
Yeah.
I'm not thoroughly impressed.
As long as it's Platinum's A team.
Yeah, as long as it's the Bayonetta team,
right.
Sure. But I don't know. I don't know what the situation is over there. I mean, that would make sense.
Yeah.
I don't know if Capcom has anybody in house that could handle that. I don't even know who's in house at Capcom anymore.
Well, because they don't make any games anymore. I would prefer. I liked DMC Devil May Cry. I thought it was a good game. Mm-hmm. I thought it lost a little bit of that weird quirkiness that the series had before when it was made in Japan. So I personally would like to see it go back to the developers who worked on the prior installments.
I mean, I think
mine is Devil May Cry 2, of course.
Right. Well, I think maybe it's time. You know, I'm not a huge Devil May Cry fan, but like I do think Devil May Cry 3 is the pinnacle of that series.
Yeah.
It's definitely the tightest gameplay and combat design.
Yeah.
Or at least like the most skill driven, I would say. And maybe it's kind of time to admit that we're never going to get back there.
Yeah.
You know, like I don't know. I think that might have just been like a lightning in the bottle, sort of the time where you had that dev team with that publisher in that time period on that game system. It was just like the perfect time. Devil May Cry 3 was the perfect time for Devil May Cry 3, and I don't know if we're ever going to get back there in this time where you have to have these games appeal to a much wider audience.
I enjoyed Devil May Cry 4, but I
like 4, but 3 is something special.
Yeah, that was the sweet spot for that franchise, without a doubt. So we'll see. Hopefully we'll hear something from Capcom. Not like it's going to have a press conference or anything like that at E3. Last thing we're going to talk about is Injustice 2. Mm-hmm. Didn't surprise me at all.
No.
I mean, there were also leaks about... The leaks before this year have been insane.
Yeah, but it makes me wonder if, have we seen everything of note, or is are the leaks because there's even crazier stuff to come?
Could be.
I hope there's even crazier stuff to come.
But yeah, so Injustice is kind of turning into NetherRealms like every other game. They're alternating between MK and Injustice, MK and Injustice. Debut trailer for me, all CG.
Yeah, it's super dark, and everybody's got Iron Man armor now.
You can hardly even. This trailer's so dark, you can hardly even see what the hell's going on.
Yeah, and I guess Tron Legacy must have been a much bigger hit in the DC universe than it was here, because everybody's cosplaying.
Well, I think a big element of the game is the whole armor thing.
Yeah,
and it's weird. The lights seem to turn different colors. Maybe they are triggers to tell you when to initiate attacks. I don't know. It's all conjecture.
I don't know. I figure it's going to be this game's equivalent of changing stances or styles in Mortal Kombat. Mortal Kombat, you can pick the 3 different versions of the character, but previous Mortal Kombats have had stance switching as a big element of the game, or pulling the weapon or whatever. And I figure that's going to be a similar mechanic because if you see Batman starts out a certain way and then he whips out the kind of green glowing armor right here. And suddenly he's got the green Tron, and then by the end of the trailer, he pulls on the full suit. Right. So I would figure there's probably 3 levels of armoring up, and I bet you move faster or whatever with no armor on, but you can take more damage if you have a full. I mean, I get what they're doing there. I just get to the gameplay. I want to see it play.
We get it tomorrow. Yeah. Actually, for most of the people who aren't watching the live stream, it'll be today because you'll be watching this on Saturday. There is gameplay going up on Saturday. The first look at the game. What I found interesting about this was that nobody knew who Aquaman was. I saw so many comments. They're like, "Who is that dude?" But it doesn't look like Aquaman.
Well, it looks like Aquaman if you're familiar with the comics and kind of what they're about to do with Jason Momoa in the movie and all that. I mean, if you saw the Batman vs Superman or the YouTube video happened, that's pretty much what he looks like. But
but most people don't think of Aquaman.
Most people think of the blonde dork with the orange shirt.
Yeah,
he's a little different now.
Yeah,
they've spent a long time at DC trying to make Aquaman not lame.
Yeah, I never minded Aquaman though. He's different.
Yeah,
he controls fish.
He rules over 70% of the planet.
He does, yeah.
He can pull some scary shit out of the ocean if he wanted to.
Yeah, for sure. About it. I know. That's why I liked him. He was always different and quirky, and his outfit was always goofy. But yeah, a lot of people were having problems recognizing him. So those are the topics we wanted to talk about off the top. It's going to be crazy next few days, week. I guess it's probably going to be ultimately by the time it's all said and done. Just a note before we move on. E3 schedule, what we're going to be doing for E3 will be posted on Sifted tomorrow, Saturday. It'll have times and everything to let you know what we're doing. Matt, you're going to be here on E3, right?
Yes.
I'm not going to have to call Daniel Kaiser
we're not going to repeat.
And bring him in through Skype or anything, right?
No,
you heard it here first. He's going to be here.
No crisis of appearance.
No surprise disappearance right before. So, yeah. So I think that's it. It's time to get to the Big Six. All right, so after you watch this show, you're going to have no questions about what you're going to see at E3 other than the surprises. That's kind of the goal here, to prep you, to get you ready, what you should know and expect to see at the show from 6 different publishers. We had to cut a couple guys out. It did hurt my soul a little bit to not have a Nintendo topic, but I was looking at it and I'm well, I can include EA or Ubisoft or Bethesda or Nintendo, and it's the Nintendo segment would have lasted 10 seconds. So we would have said Zelda, and that's pretty much all there is. And
Pokemon Sun and Moon.
Yeah, and we're psyched as hell for Zelda, and to a lesser extent Pokemon, but we can't bolster a whole topic of the Big Six talking about Zelda.
Yeah.
So really excited about it, but unfortunately Nintendo did not make the cut. So first of all, we're going to talk about Sony. probably the press conference everyone is most excited for. Certainly, without a doubt, was the best press conference at last year's E3.
Oh, yeah.
Probably one of the best ever at E3.
Going to be hard to top it.
Generated a lot of memes, for sure. I mean, people are still talking about some of the reaction shots of people watching the Sony press conference. And
the game trailers, reaction GIFs continue to flow.
Yeah, even you and I, pretty moved by a lot of the stuff in there. We didn't jump up on our chairs or anything like that. I don't know if anything would ever make me do that for a video game, to be perfectly honest.
But I had a TriCaster to run. I couldn't stand up.
Yeah, exactly. So
headphones would have pulled out.
So and you're a big fan of Shenmue as well.
I never thought I'd see Shenmue 3 at a frickin' E3 press conference. You kidding?
Yeah, it definitely dropped both our jaws. We just didn't dance around.
I was like kind of like shocked that they actually did the Final Fantasy VII remake. Yeah. But that was more of a I don't really like Final Fantasy VII very much because I was 22 when it came out. But I was like super happy for the people that that were fans of that as kids, and now they get like this update. I mean, obviously there's been some drama about it.
It looks
since
like
then.
A completely different game.
Yeah, but I was happy for the people that have been wanting that forever. But like Shenmue 3 just like blew me away.
Yep. So let's start going through some of the games here that Sony is going to show. Horizon Zero Dawn. We already mentioned game delayed until next year. How do you feel about that, Matt?
Got a mic problem? Okay.
I'm not surprised that it was delayed.
No.
Because we haven't seen much of it. They could have shown another demo at E3. That still would have been only 2 little patches of gameplay that we would have seen.
I mean,
I'm not even really all that disappointed because Q4 is shaping up to be something really awesome already.
Yeah, I mean, I was looking forward to it. It was one of the few risks I took in the Fantasy League. Where I just was really hoping it was going to make it because it really seemed in good shape at E3 last year and at Gamescom. And I was just kind of hoping they were further along than I wanted to believe they were. But, clearly they're going to blow it out to some degree. You're going to show some new stuff at E3 this year. And I'm happy to see more of it. I mean, whatever they need to do to get it done. I'm excited that Guerrilla finally gets to make something that isn't Killzone.
Yeah.
Let them do it upright. Let them break out of that mold and give it to me when it's ready.
Yeah, That's exactly what I would say. Like, let them finish it right. Yeah. Like, I don't want to play a half-baked game, especially when it's Guerrilla. A developer that doesn't have a lot of experience making games like this in the first place. It makes me a little nervous that they're the ones working on this. Not from a technical perspective. Obviously, their games have always looked great. They just haven't always played the best. So, any amount of time they're willing to give them, I'm cool with that. I'm totally fine with them getting some extra time to make it good and make it right. The premise is awesome. What we've seen of it so far has been awesome. Just hopefully keep on keeping on.
Yeah, I actually already pre-ordered the collector's edition because I think the statue of her looks really cool.
Yeah.
So, I'm in the tank for this one. Basically, I'll admit to it.
I got tanked by this one, or actually, you did, because you had him on your fantasy team. All right, let's talk about Detroit Become Human. This game, saw it once. Haven't seen it again. I did see a report saying that it is going to be at E3, so it's going to be there.
Okay. This is the David Cage.
It is, yes.
I don't know. I mean, I love the premise. I think it's a very interesting idea, and I hope it's not too derivative of Ex Machina, the movie that we got last year.
I'd be okay with that, actually.
But, it's not like we're saturated with that kind of content.
Keep in mind, this game started out as just a tech demo.
Right.
And then people splooged all over the tech demo so much that they're like, well, let's just make a whole game.
Yeah. Which did not happen with their Wizard demo.
Right. Which, actually, I would probably rather have maybe the Wizard demo. Although the tech demo for this was awesome, man.
There's a really interesting thing. It's like David Cage always tries to, maybe it's Kaja, I don't remember. I heard a different.
Oh, really? His name's not Cage?
Cool, because he's French.
Kage, maybe?
Kaja is, I think, what I heard.
Interesting. I've never heard that.
I may have been pronouncing his name wrong for years.
You and everybody else.
But he tries to make his games, about something, capital A, capital S.
Yeah.
And I don't think he always succeeds.
Yeah.
But this is a really interesting premise and a really interesting theme to explore, and going to become more and more relevant. There's people that are predicting that in 10 years, Google's primary revenue is going to be selling AIs.
Oh yeah,
I can't remember who it was, but it was a tech guy who said, 10 years ago when he, was talking to the head of Google about like, what are you doing? It was on NPR. It was a tech reporter who was like saying like, I was talking to the guy who ran Google, and I'm like, what are you doing with search engines? Who cares about search engines? We have Alta Vista. Nobody needs another search engine. And the guy and the Google guy said, whose name I should know, but I don't remember it right now. He basically said the point is to build a search engine for the world that then lets us inform an AI. Like the whole goal of Google has been to build Skynet the whole time. I mean, that's what's happening.
That's insane.
And so as that happens, and as you see Japan make these more and more eerily realistic humanoid androids, eventually those two roads are going to intersect, and this shit's going to happen. Yeah. And I'm looking forward to being an old grandpa oppressing cybernetic life forms, because,
with zero guilt.
Yeah, because we're going to hit that point where it's just like, like your daughter's dragging home some kind of cyborg dude, and you're just like, oh, you don't bring that, cyber jerk back here, and just, oh, Dad, you're such a humanist. That word meant something different last time when I was a kid.
You're such a humanist. So, what I would say about David Cage, Kage, whatever you want to call it. The thing about his games is the concepts.
Larry Page, that's who it was. Thank you, Tapiox.
The concepts are always intriguing, and they hook me in, but then I actually play the game, and that's where I'm always let down with his games. And
that's a very important part of a game.
It generally,
the playing part.
To some people.
Well,
I mean, The Walking Dead didn't win Game of the Year one year, so it's not that important to everybody.
How much must that have pissed off David Cage?
He's like,
come on!
Yeah, exactly.
I had Ellen Page!
Yeah. You're right. He probably was really pissed off when he saw that. But I don't know. Hopefully they'll demo it. I'm assuming they're going to demo the game on stage at E3.
I would think so. I mean, it seems like a good demoable demo game. It looks beautiful.
I mean, walking simulators, if that's what this game ends up being, are not demo-friendly.
No, but if you can pick a certain section that will like show some stuff off and show the visuals off, and I think it'll be a good wow moment. Because I mean, again, like you say, these games are kind of walking simulators in the sense that you control what the player is doing and where they are so strongly that you can you can blow a lot of budget on the graphics for that.
Oh yeah, his games usually look gorgeous.
Oh yeah,
so.
I mean,
it might at least be one for the graphics horse.
Oh yeah, it's on my radar. All you Order 1886 fans.
Yeah, here you go.
I mean, it's on my radar because again, I think we've talked about this before, but it's like even when he fails, I appreciate what David Cage is trying to do.
Yeah.
And one of these days he's going to do it.
Yeah.
And maybe this will be it.
And I'm totally fine if this game has a plot like Ex Machina. That's my film of the year last year. I'm totally cool with that.
I think this is going to be a really interesting, for lack of a better term, double feature with Deus Ex Mankind Divided.
Yeah, because similar vein, definitely.
Similar vein, similar concept, different sides of the coin, though.
I wouldn't be surprised if we don't get Detroit until next year.
I would think not.
Late next year, Q4 next year.
We've done this before.
Yeah.
Quantic Dream makes very impressive technological stuff, but they're not the guy you want to call to pick you up at the airport.
Exactly. It takes time.
Yeah.
Let's see. The Last Guardian. Finally, this should be, Matt, its last ever trade show showing. I mean,
we hope.
It could hit Tokyo Game Show.
Yeah.
It could.
You think we'll get a release date?
Oh, yeah. At the very least, we're going to get a release date for this game. I wouldn't even be surprised if they're like, it comes out in like a month. Like, I really wouldn't. Like, I could see... I mean, the game's been in development for like...
Don't make me pick between The Last Guardian and No Man's Sky.
That's
not right.
Look, at a certain point, they got to call it, right?
Right.
Like,
I mean,
they've been working
happen.
on the game for like 10 years. It's like, there's nothing... Like, IGN's been doing a bunch of exclusive coverage on the game. I don't know if you've watched it or not, but it's actually been really interesting. I'm shocked there hasn't been more interest in IGN's coverage on Sifted. Like...
I haven't seen any of that.
Yeah, they did like a whole series of exclusive interviews and had new gameplay and everything, and like everyone was just kind of like, eh. Like I'm just wondering if like the interest in this game is just people have just given up on it at this point.
To me, part of it is like I don't want to just see everything because I love the Team Eco games and I've waited 11 years and I'd prefer to just experience some on my own. You know, I'm not an anti-spoiler guy, but like at this point I'm just like, yes, I'm gonna buy it. I don't need to see anything else. Just let's go. But Yeah, part of it is also like, it's like, yeah, call me when it's like shipping.
Yeah.
It's like, call me when Amazon has put it in the mail, and we'll talk. Because until then, like, what else is there to say?
Yeah. Well,
you're not going to convince me to buy it any harder. So, like, let's just get on with it.
Well, one thing I would say, like, they actually divulged a lot of new information to IGN. Like, it's like it's a lot of a puzzle game in a lot of ways. Like, figuring out how to maneuver, you can even see it in this demo.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of eco to this.
Yeah, which is totally fine.
Yeah. I do wonder, like, for the people like me who've been waiting for, I mean, can this game live up to anything? I mean, is it inevitably going to be like, well, that wasn't worth waiting a decade for?
Well, I think no matter what,
you got to keep some expectations in check.
I think even Half-Life 3 probably wouldn't be worth waiting. No, I don't think any video game is worth waiting a decade for, in my opinion.
No.
But at the same time, like, my impressions of this game...
Talking to you, Final Fantasy 15 fans.
Yeah, exactly. My opinion of this game has gone up, and then down, and then up, and then down, and now I'm just kind of apathetic. Like,
yeah. I really feel like until I press that start button, like, I'm still going to be kind of like,
I think when I do hit that start button, a smile will crack across my face, though. Like, I am now anticipating that moment, and I honestly do not think it will be that long. One thing I would say is Horizon getting bumped into next year does lead me to believe that maybe this is like Sony's big Q4 game.
Maybe?
Because remember, their Q4 last year was terrible.
Oh, it was.
And I mean, so much so that Andrew House came out and was like, yeah, our lineup's terrible.
Unless the big one is the next game we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
Which
could very well be. And that game is God of War 4. All but confirmed to be in development.
There's been concept art of Kratos with pants on and everything. I mean, it's
Kratos in pants.
Revolutionary.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I honestly felt like God of War 3, by the time I got to the end of it, I kind of burned out on the series a little bit. Like, and then I played...
It took me an effort to get to the end of God of War 3, if I'm being honest.
Well, there also, if you played it early, and there was that one section at the end that was, like, almost impossible. And then I think Adam complained about it, and they nerfed it. Isn't that right?
That sounds right.
I think Adam Sessler complained about the end of the game on Twitter or something, and it got like 5,000 retweets or something, and then they were like, yeah, we should nerf that. I played it before they nerfed it. It was not fun. But yeah, by the end of that game, like, I just felt like I was kind of dragging my ass to the finish line.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is, like, I think the first, like, 20 minutes of God of War 3 are, like, some of the most, like, impressive, like, action gaming ever, and I don't think the game ever hits that point again. Yeah. I think it goes up and down. Like, the fight against Kronos is really cool. Like, there's a lot of really cool scenes, but there's a point at which, like, when you're, like, you know, dragging stuff through the Hades, like, maze thing, and you're like, man, how did I go from fighting giant horses made of water to this?
Yeah.
You know, there's a few
ebbs
valleys.
And flows, peaks and valleys in that game.
But I mean, I think God of War is still going to be a draw, and fighting something other than the Greek gods, if they really go with the Viking stuff, is going to be cool. So I'm up for it. I mean, I gotta say, like, Ascension.
Did you finish Ascension?
I don't remember anything about Ascension. I barely remember playing it.
Through,
like, he doesn't even talk in it almost. Like, it was like
that was probably a conscious decision though, because they probably didn't want this other studio to sabotage the story or mess with Kratos's, you know, mythos in any sort of way. I think that might have been by design, but. You're right. Like, you know, that game in particular really, I don't remember hardly anything about it.
No. It's like God of War Ascension and Gears of War Judgment are both, like, lost games to me. Like, I played them, but I I generally don't remember they exist until we start talking about, like, hey, remember those games you don't remember? It's like, yeah, those two games.
The one thing I would say is that I want to see the graphics in God of War 4.
Yeah.
The gore.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
I want to see some anatomical detail.
I mean, whoa. Think about what they did with the PlayStation 3.
Yeah.
I mean, the one scene where they're ripping the guy's, like, head apart. Like, that is disgusting, but it really is some of the most impressive, like, graphics from last generation.
The disemboweling of the centaur.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some
I mean, imagine what they're going to do with the PlayStation 4. Like,
I can't even imagine.
I mean, it'll be. I'm assuming it'll be kind of on that same level as Uncharted.
Yeah.
One of those games that people just buy to like show their system off to friends.
Or like Mortal Kombat 10, where like you kind of had that point where some people were like horribly disgusted by it, and some of it, like I was just like, that's hilarious. You know, like you either get the joke or you don't.
A lot of it depends on perspective. Yeah,
it's like if you're into that kind of like if you watched horror movies or martial arts movies, like for like the gore and the crazy like schlocky like you know the bright red blood like as the kung fu master punches through the guy's stomach and just like you know punches through the very obvious dummy and like just like bright red blood everywhere and the really cheesy sound effects like like that's what you're after on that. So I think that stuff's really funny. But so God of War's kills are sort of an equal part like and sort of like some you know it's a heavy metal album cover come to life in some ways.
So I think, you know, there's going to be interest in the game no matter what.
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't expect it to change anything. It's probably going to be the same old formula. I don't know what you can really do to make God of War feel fresh. Yeah. But we'll see.
Well, I mean, some of the concept art, I don't know if that's fresh or not, but it's definitely a little different at least.
A little different. I mean, I think they should have made the move to a new Pantheon a couple games ago. Yeah. You know, I think each one should have been, but...
So... let's move on. Shenmue 3. So Shenmue, a little weird maybe to mention this in the Sony section of the show, but it was debuted at Sony's press conference last year. And so I feel like there's kind of an association with it. Sony also kind of promoted it, you know, by promoting the Kickstarter for it. So I felt like I wanted to talk about Shenmue 3 in the show. I didn't really know where to put it. We weren't doing like a general, like, third-party topic for the Big Six, so I just kind of shoehorned it in here. We are doing predictions at the end. After our trailer of the week, we're going to do our E3 predictions. And one of my predictions that did not end up making the cut for my list is that Shenmue 3 will be one of the most disappointing games of E3 2016. I don't know if you've seen like the footage of it so far.
I've seen some of it.
What's your impressions of it so far? What you've seen?
It looks better than like the Kickstarter videos they were showing. Like, the target renders, like it's clearly I think they've made a pretty decent looking game. But there's a large part of me just expects it to kind of be, like on the level of something like, I don't know if anyone's following the game, the Technomancer. Yeah, have you seen that? That's been hosted a couple times on Sifted. The couple days.
The E3 trailer for it came out today.
Yeah, like because I played Mars Warlogs, which is the game by the same developer, the last game they made, which is in the same universe as the Technomancer, and it was like kind of like a action RPG with like sort of melee combat, but it was kind of like one of those old B-list games that don't get made anymore, and like you could tell there was like heart in it. There was like there was the people who made that really wanted to make something. It was kind of like Mass Effect with like the polish taken off it. And I feel like Shenmue is going to end up being something like that, like a B game. Yeah. That like is going to feel like it was made by people who really believe in what they were making, but it's just not on the level that like the AAA stuff is. But like the flip side of that is like the Shenmue games in their day were AAA.
They were, yeah, for sure.
So I think there's going to be the march of time is going to result in Shenmue 3 being inevitably feeling like a smaller or less impressive game than the originals did. I don't think I'm going to get the same like wow I can't believe this is a real thing rush that I got from the like Shenmue 1 and 2. Yeah, it's going to be more of a I guess the word maybe like workmanlike experience where it's just like well at least that's finished.
Well, here's the questions I have. One, when was the last time Yu Suzuki shipped a game?
Virtua Fighter 4. I don't know.
I think that was it. That was a long time ago.
It was.
When was the last time? Well, the second question was going to be when was the last time he shipped a good game? But Virtua Fighter 4 was amazing.
I'm not entirely clear on the depth of his involvement with the last couple Virtua Fighters.
Right. I mean, they put his name on them, but how much did he actually work on them? I mean, I don't know. I feel like people are getting all excited over something that could end up being.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little inevitable when you're dealing with. I mean, look, I'm pretty sure I'm going to come away from the Shenmue Kickstarter more satisfied than I am coming away from the Star Citizen Kickstarter, for instance.
Really?
Well, I think Star Citizen is becoming more and more like, I don't know if they're ever going to turn that thing into something that, like...
I'm really starting to wonder.
I mean, just like, just having played some of the alpha and stuff, like you playing like the on-foot stuff and like the guns don't shoot anything yet. Like you can't see anyone's bullets, and like people float around on stuff and they don't like die. They just sort of stop and you can't see anyone else's gun. And I'm just like, I know it's an alpha, I know it's early, but it's like, how is this not for? And it's like, if you can't even get that right, why even? Let's make the ships work, people.
They do Q&As with their fans every day.
Yeah.
Like, we see them come into the Sifted admin, and we don't post them because no one seems to care. Like, the times we have curated them, like, no one...
Well, I've hit the point where, like, I'm a backer, so I get the newsletters, and I continually just, like, delete. I'm just like... Until I see something in that title that says, playable beta at least, like I'll check in once in a while, but that's it. And like, I feel like Shenmue 3 is going to at least be, as having played Shenmue recently, it's at least going to be a follow-up to that I recognize and understand will work in a very similar manner.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, I think there's a couple other things that are not going to live up in worse ways. But I think you're right that the world has moved on from that, and if they aren't updating the Shenmue concept and gameplay to a degree that might make it feel not like Shenmue, but is that a bad thing? Like those games are weird to play now.
I think this might be a case of be careful what you ask for because you just might get it. Like,
True.
I feel like everyone is hyped over this game. Has not played Shenmue in the last 10 years. Like,
I'm in for I don't even remember what I think I must have pledged at least like $150 on this thing.
Yeah,
because I'm a big Shenmue fan. But I played the Shenmue games last summer, and it's rough.
They're rough.
It's like, there were moments especially in the first game where I'm just like, pick up the fucking orange. Like, I can't get you to pick up the like, I'm just maneuvering around the table until the damn A button comes up, and it's not working. It's not working. And then I go to pick it, and like, what does he do? He just sort of picks it and goes. I'm just like, and there was a moment where because I thought it was something I was trying to pick up that was important, and it turned out to just being like an object he could look at, and I'm just like, that's 10 seconds from my life.
Yeah.
Like, that's gone.
You'll never
that's
get
gone.
It back.
I'm never going to have that. I'm going to be on my deathbed and think about that time I picked an orange up in Shenmue by accident.
That's like David Kaje's games.
So yeah, the Shenmue has some problems, dude. Like, I'm just saying, I wonder what they're going to do with Shenmue 3 to make it feel accessible to a modern audience, because I am a total Shenmue fanboy, and the old games are barely accessible to me now.
Yeah.
Because just interfaces and user interfaces, not just just controls, but user interfaces and controls and how you maneuver in a 3D world. They've come so far since that kind of, that was almost on the level of Zelda 64 in terms of like, we're just trying to figure out this 3D thing out.
Yeah.
How to move around in a space, a believable world. And
that was enough to blow my mind back then.
Yeah, but I feel like
not anymore.
But
though.
I feel like A, Nintendo won that competition, and B, other people have figured out better solutions since then, and I wonder how much of it Shenmue will adopt those better solutions.
Hopefully a lot.
And how much of it will be like, well, we have to make it feel like Shenmue, which I think is a mistake.
As long as it's got the spirit of Shenmue, the same characters, that's all I want. Everything else I want brought to the modern age.
Yes. Let me just run with the analog stick and not the analog trigger, but make sure that there's sailors to look for.
Yeah.
That's my
Nice.
That's my advice to you, Suzuki.
So PlayStation VR, I feel like, is going to be Sony's big push at the show. It's already headed in that direction. There have been 3 brand new PlayStation VR exclusive games announced this week alone.
Which look like real games.
They do.
I might
Things
add.
are starting to change.
Yeah.
We're starting to see things that look like legitimate games. Edge of Nowhere from Insomniac came out this week for Rift. That
fairly positive reception. I mean, not like perfect, but it's an actual game.
It's been funny watching people review, and like, I don't want to get too far into it because I haven't really played a ton of VR. I don't have a VR headset yet for myself, so maybe it will happen to me too. But it's been very funny to watch how people have evaluated that game in particular, because by all accounts, it's like a really generic third-person action-adventure game. With the novelty of playing it in VR. And you can see some journalists are completely blown away by it. And they've managed to totally overlook the fact that most of the game is really average because they're playing it in VR. But then you have other journalists who are like completely kind of seeing through the facade and are saying, if this weren't VR, this game would be complete crap. And even with VR, it's kind of average. So there's like this sliding scale because you get that sense of awe with VR just intrinsically because of the medium. But I can't wait to see this in myself and to see how well I look through it to see what really is at the core of each game that I evaluate. Sadly, I haven't done that yet. But you're right. Several of the games shown this week look like they're actual real games that have some real heft to them, some substance to them. They're not just like 10-minute mini games that you play for a little while and you move on. And now that we know PlayStation 4 Neo is not going to be at E3, I really think like PlayStation VR is, because this is really PlayStation VR's last big push.
Yeah.
In North America anyway. I'm sure Gamescom, they'll do a lot of stuff there as well. But it's coming out October or whatever. By the time the summer's over, we're pretty much ready to buy it. So I would not be surprised if at the end of the show we look back and there were a lot more games announced for PlayStation VR than there were for just the base PlayStation 4. Mm-hmm. At least that's what I think is going to happen.
I'm pretty sure that's their Q4.
Yeah. It is. That's their big product for a Q4. Hopefully we get Neo as well, but
I'd be surprised if they didn't put Neo up against VRs. At least it's a bundle option.
Yeah. The whole thing made too much sense. It's like Neo with PlayStation VR. You need more powerful hardware to run the VR better.
Codename Neo, codename Morpheus.
Right. They're buddies.
Yeah.
So, maybe we shouldn't jump the gun too much on the whole Neo thing. Maybe, not showing at E3 isn't the death knell for it coming out this year.
Maybe they aren't showing it because they want the mainstream press to focus on the VR headset.
Because
otherwise, there might be a temptation to just report, new PlayStation, new PlayStation, new PlayStation, and then who knows if the message gets mixed and people start taking it as I have to buy this new PlayStation to use this VR thing.
Well, the other thing too is that if
maybe better to just show the headset and let it fly.
Well, the other thing too is that if nobody wants PlayStation VR, there's really no reason for a more powerful console.
True.
So it's like you're kind of, if you put out Neo first, you're kind of putting the cart before the horse there. So, All right, I think it's time to move on to the next topic of the Big Six. Next, we're going to talk about Square Enix. I think Square Enix has the ability to have the best showing at all of E3.
Really?
The ability. Whether that will come to fruition or not, I have no idea. So, Deus Ex, Mankind Divided, blew that game out this week.
Yeah.
I was surprised. It's like, Square Enix does their little press event and everything. You'd think they would wait for that, but nope. They showed off another 20-minute demo of Deus Ex this week. Showed off a bonus mode in Deus Ex that's like an arcade shooter where you just basically go through arenas and shoot, and the farther you go, the harder it gets, and the more points you... It's basically a point generating side shoot game that's included in the base game. And then they also announced Deus Ex Go, which if anyone's played the Hitman Go games or the Lara Croft Go games, they're kind of these weird isometric puzzle platformy things.
Yeah. Lara Croft Go was my pick for I think mobile game of the year.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, it was. Yeah, so
I really like the Go games.
The Go series are good. So far what we've played of both of them have been excellent. I don't know if they're going to sue Nintendo for Pokemon Go, but it's a little weird that they...
It's interesting.
It is kind of like an IP that they've established, right, with the whole Go thing. So, big news for Deus Ex this week, the week before E3. It makes me wonder if we're going to see much new while at the show. The one thing that really struck me about what they showed this week was, I think they called it aggressive stealth. So, for me personally, a lot of stealth games... they get boring after a while because you have to be so deliberate and slow, and they're very calculated. But what they've really done with Mankind Divided is they've made it a more aggressive stealth. It's more of an action-y type stealth, like a Bourne or something like that, instead of something where you're hiding in the shadows waiting for somebody to walk by. They've made it a little more action-y. I know that may piss off people who are stealth purists. But for me personally, I would prefer that style of stealth gameplay.
I mean, I agree with Adam Sessler's old evaluation of like the worst kind of a stealth game is when the stealth game is just you're playing what you'd normally play as the game, but slower.
Yeah.
Whereas like Deus Ex, even the last one as well, made a good balance between both stealthy and going loud and killing and being non-lethal. And I felt like the game never really judged you for choosing one or the other. Which in a game, it was one of my problems with Dishonored. I always felt like Dishonored was like telling me that I was playing it wrong.
Yeah.
If I wasn't being like super stealth master.
Yeah.
And Deus Ex was much more even-handed about being like, oh yeah, if you want to do that, go ahead and do that. And then people weren't like, like when at the beginning of Human Revolution, you can pick like a lethal or a non-lethal weapon to be given in the first mission, and like they don't just like, okay, I mean, if you want to kill people like a monster, fight. No, the guy's like, all right, good job, like taking no chances. I like it. And it's just like, so like I just like that, the previous game did a good job of making you feel like you could tackle it how you wanted, and this game looks like they're taking that and upping it even further.
Yep. So, Final Fantasy VII remake, not a remaster. It really is a remake.
Yeah,
it is
multi-part, like episodic. Like, I mean, it looks like they might be splitting the game up, like, basically as what we would have considered kind of like Disc 1, Disc 2 a little bit.
Well, they've said that, like, the first installment will be as long as a typical Final Fantasy game.
Yeah.
So it's not like, we're going to play 5 hours and then wait a month and then play another 5 hours.
Yeah, so I wonder, I mean, you'd think that would be enough, but you wonder, like, of the hardcore fans, how many are going to be like, well, I'm waiting until it's all out.
Yeah.
And does that impact sales to the point they're like, well, we can't afford to make the last two.
I think the sales of this game will give them enough money to do how many ever episodes they want to do.
You think we're going to see like any kind of like real info or new stuff on this year? Or?
Yeah, we have to at least see.
I'm just used to the Square that like sort of like says we're doing a thing. Doesn't talk about it for 2 years.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look at Final Fantasy 15. We're at the end of an 11-year road here with that game. But I don't see Final Fantasy 7 Remake falling into that trap. Like,
I mean, they do kind of have a blueprint
to
follow.
But I think things have changed a lot since back when they first announced Versus 13 or whatever the hell.
I mean, I don't think it'll take 10 years to come out, but there's just part of me that wonders, like, are you going to hit that weird, because Kingdom Hearts still is in that weird limbo that, like, that classic Square limbo of, like, oh, so now, like, 2.8 final chapter prologue, whatever the hell that is.
I have no idea what the hell.
That's coming out in December, so we're clearly not getting Kingdom Hearts 3 this year, which means Kingdom Hearts 3 is sometime next year, but is it at the end of next year? It's that thing where they announce, Final Fantasy and Kingdom Hearts have that thing where it's like, here, we're making it, here's the logo. See you in 4 years, it's like, and not that like they're taking forever. It's an unreasonable amount of time to make the game in, but it's just like they announced this shit way too early in some cases, just to like assure fans it's coming. But then you're getting to the point. I have Kingdom Hearts 1.5 and 2.5 and 2.8, and I'm sure there'll be a 2.9 at some point as a pre-order bonus. So what are we doing?
I think we're going to see a huge chunk of gameplay from the Final Fantasy VII Remake.
I hope so.
I mean, I don't know if they'll play it live, but I think at the very least they're going to put out a gameplay walkthrough, developer walkthrough. I mean, they've been pretty forthcoming with Final Fantasy 15 gameplay now that they've actually said the game's coming out. So I would not be surprised if we get to see like legit gameplay of the game, not this stuff where it's like that's gameplay, but it's like all cut together like a cinema or
So here's a question for you: do you think if they show actual gameplay of Final Fantasy VII Remake, do you think it'll look as good as this like render trailer?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think this looks that great.
Neither do I, but we've seen a lot of inexplicable downgrades this generation.
Yeah, and I mean, I would say even Final Fantasy 15 might be one of those graphical downgrades. I was a little disappointed when I played
the demo.
The demo
was not a mind blower.
Yeah, I mean, there was like no shadows in like half of it. Like, so yeah, I mean, I don't think this looks that good to begin with. So I think it'll hit this though. I mean,
it looks pretty good. I mean, there's a lot going on.
Yeah,
a lot of particle action. I like the lighting and a lot of nice reflections. Like there's stuff happening here that like might, while not like be impossible, it might like bog you down a little bit in some places.
I mean, the game doesn't look as good as Uncharted 4. No. So
But
it's certainly possible to pull this game off.
Square Enix is also not Naughty Dog.
Yeah, they also have to make the game for other platforms,
right.
for Xbox One, which, that's a lot of times multi-platform games get held back a little bit. They don't write to the metal on each platform. So I think it'll have a big presence at the show. I think that we'll get to see the game actually being played.
I think
people will absolutely freak out when they see that for sure it's not turn-based.
I have a strange sneaking suspicion that it's just going to be it's still coming. Look forward to it. Okay, next we have World of Final Fantasy. I'm concerned that we're going to get like a hey, we're still making this game, but it's not ready yet. So here's a 20-minute demo of World of Final Fantasy.
Could be. Which they also just put out a new trailer for. It is coming confirmed for the West for the end of the year, I believe.
I think it's simultaneous in October with worldwide.
Yeah.
If I remember right.
That was looking pretty sharp. Next we're going to talk about Final Fantasy 15. We already spoke about that a little bit. It's going to happen when you talk about Final Fantasy 7.
It'll just be nice to get it over with.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, they haven't really been shy about that game. They've shown it off a ton. There's still, we haven't really seen, an epic boss fight. We've seen one summons. So, I wouldn't be surprised if they maybe show off a couple more summons to try to get the hype generated on this game.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It doesn't seem like people have really activated over this game the way I thought they would.
Well, I think it's a little bit of the Last Guardian syndrome, where it's just it's been so long that at this point it's okay, just show me something. Just let me play it.
So many prior empty promises.
Yeah. And I think despite how long it's been, and despite how much media, and even the alpha, demo, no one really knows a whole lot about what we're walking into on this game. It's a very new take on the material, and that could be a good thing. There might be some really interesting twists on the standard Final Fantasy format, but I think right now most people are just hand it over. Let's just play it and get through it, and then we'll see what we thought.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Kingdom Hearts 3.
I'd be shocked if we see anything of note.
Anything?
Yeah.
I think we'll get a trailer.
I think we'll get some a demo or some kind of something on 2.8, some new reveal of some weird thing on 2.8 that is going to reveal some kind of crazy lore thing that I have no idea about, but Kingdom Hearts fans and people who draw fan art are going to be oh my god, I'm sure, or some revelation about Organization 13. I don't even know anymore. I have no clue what anything is happening in this series. I really like the idea of this series, but I can't keep up. But I don't know. I think Kingdom Hearts 3 is next year at the earliest, and we're not going to see anything substantial.
I mean, it is pretty encouraging. It does seem to be pretty far along. I don't know if you saw it or not, but Iga showed off his game this week for the first time. The first gameplay of it, and it was literally a character running around an empty level. So
just like Devil's Third back in the day.
And I was, and they're showing that, and they're showing that game at E3. I'm like, dude, you just showed gameplay for the first time. There was no enemies in the level, none. And what are we gonna do? Just let us run around an empty environment? So this game's a lot farther along than that game. And they're going to show it at E3. So, but Square's a lot more protective of its IP. And
also I get the impression that with Kingdom Hearts you have to make a lot of there have to be a lot of phone calls with Disney,
right?
Because they hold the control over almost everything in that game except the Final Fantasy characters. Disney has control over Sora and Riku and all those.
Well, they do have a liaison this time. There are people dedicated to being the bridge between Square and Disney, and they actually went so far as to put out a developer doc all about it, saying, I'm here to make sure that there are no bumps in the road with these two entities communicating with each other. So hopefully that helps.
And to be fair, when Marvel set up a similar system for their games with that resulted in one of the best periods of Marvel games around.
Yeah. You're right.
That's what gave us stuff like Wolverine Origins, which is one of the better ones.
Yep. So just to round off Square Enix, they just announced a remaster of Final Fantasy 12 this week, which looks amazing.
Oh, I'm into that.
Also, Final Fantasy 12 is a great Final Fantasy.
Final Fantasy 12 is my second favorite.
I can totally see that. If you guys have not played Final Fantasy 12, you should be very, very happy they're remastering that game.
Yeah, because it's rough on PlayStation 2.
It is, yeah.
But it is different from all the rest. There is some MMO kind of sensibility to it, but it's different. It takes place in Ivolus, where Final Fantasy Tactics takes place. It's a very different take on things, even though it is kind of just a retelling of the Star Wars story.
Yeah.
But I really liked it.
It wouldn't be the first or last game to do that.
No, I really liked it.
Well, hell, Star Wars retold the Star Wars story.
Biggs and Wedge have been in all these Final Fantasy games. It's about time they finally owned up.
Yeah.
But my favorite is Final Fantasy VI. My second favorite is Final Fantasy XII. So I'm expecting Final Fantasy 18 to be a really good one. Every 6 games, they make something I love.
So there's that. There's I Am Setsuna, which is the first.
That looks really cool.
It looks amazing. It's like the first RPG from their brand new studio that they just built. It has old school sensibilities. Like you could just there's rumors about a Tomb Raider, like a remaster of the very first Tomb Raider in honor of the 20th anniversary of Tomb Raider. That's why I said before we started this topic that Square Enix has the opportunity to have the best showing of E3. I mean, we just went on, and there's games that we just brushed over that could be like big time games. So I think they're going to have a great E3. I'm really excited for it. I'm not sure exactly when their presser is. Like 1 o'clock on Monday?
Yeah, I think it goes Microsoft, Square, Ubisoft, Sony.
Yeah, that sounds right. And we'll be here for all those.
Don't quote me on that.
We'll be hanging out big time.
Yeah, because it doesn't matter because we're just going to be here.
Yeah, it's not like we're going to leave.
Whatever comes on, comes on.
Yeah. And you'll be there with us, hopefully. So let's move on. We're going to talk about Bethesda next. Bethesda's press conference is Sunday. It's going to keep me from seeing, hopefully, the Penguins take the Stanley Cup.
Oh.
Yeah, that's burly. But
we have to rely on the chat again.
Duty calls. Yeah, we're going to need spoilers from you guys in the chat while that game is going on, while we're streaming Bethesda. Let's just go right down the row with them. They have a pretty good showing, but it's all kind of ambiguous and rumors. So, obviously, Dishonored 2. We've talked about that game a ton on the show. I don't know if we need to beat the dead horse again here.
Is that this year?
I believe so. It's supposed to be. I would, again, not be surprised if that game gets delayed a month or two.
Maybe.
Seems like it's been in development for a long time.
Yeah, it seems like it would probably be ready by now.
I would hope. But we've talked about this game at length on the show. We're not going to spend a ton of time on it on our E3 preview. Dishonored is one of those games, either you love it or you're kind of meh over it. I don't think anyone would ever say it's not a good game.
The most fun I ever had with Dishonored was watching the Platinum Journey, frankly. Like, I don't know what it is. I just never, I couldn't get into it.
It's a weird universe.
It just felt, I like the universe, I like the art design, I like all that. I just couldn't get into how it felt somehow. I mean to try it again. I got the remastered version for like $5 at like a PlayStation Network sale, so I'll go back and try it again at some point. But I love the look of this. I'm excited for this, even though I'm worried I'm going to play it for like an hour and be like,
Yeah, that's how I kind of was with the first Dishonored. Like, but to me, it really was like the world and the art. It was just so dreary. Like the whole game it should have just been called Dreary, the video game.
This one seems to solve that problem.
It does. It does seem to. And look, I watch people who are good at playing Dishonored play it, and it's impressive.
Oh, yeah.
Like, people who are really good with the blink and everything, I'm like, what are you doing? Like, I almost can't even, like, follow what's happening on the screen. So I have a very strong appreciation for the first one, and I obviously respect the developers. I really like that they did something different instead of making another cookie-cutter game and tried to kind of spread their wings a little bit, and they were rewarded for it. So we'll see. Let's move on. Let's talk about... All the rest are pretty much rumors for Bethesda. And here's the thing. So Bethesda's having a press conference at E3. Before last year, Bethesda did not do E3 press conferences. Last year, completely warranted. I mean, think about all the stuff that they debuted at the show.
It's like, boom, Fallout 4 coming this year. Boom, free Fallout mobile game right now. Like, it was crazy.
So you got to assume that they have enough on their plate to rationalize doing this. So rumors have been swirling around Skyrim remaster. How do you feel about the idea of that, Matt?
Something for the console, boys, I guess. I mean, I have a PC that can run it with like mods that make it look like what I assume Elder Scrolls 6 is going to look like. So like, it's a little pointless for me, I guess. And
I mean,
also,
anyone who has it, I played on PC.
I played that game for like 200 hours. I'm not going to do that again. Like, are you kidding? Like, I mean, I loved Skyrim. I thought I think it's the best game they've ever made. I think it's the best Bethesda game. in terms of their in-house development, not their published stuff, whatever. But like, I love Skyrim. It's my favorite one. My favorites, Morrowind and Skyrim, are like right there.
Yeah.
But like, I don't really feel the need to play that again.
I would not play it again. Absolutely would not. I don't have the time to play a 200-hour game twice.
Yeah.
Like, I barely have time to play it the first time.
I mean, I played it on Xbox 360, and then I played a fair amount of it again on PC when I got my new PC. I went through it, put some mods in that I couldn't run on my old card, and played it a little bit. I didn't finish it, but I enjoyed running around in this more beautiful version of it with some mods. But I'll tell you this much: I don't know if I could go back to playing that game without a weight limit removal mod.
Yeah,
like that would be a tough one.
Yeah, that drove me crazy about that game. But even kind of the bigger issue goes back to what you were saying before: is that the mod scene for these games is incredible. Mm-hmm. You have, what's the one mod that they're working on that mashes up like Skyrim
and Morrowind?
Skywind or whatever.
Yeah.
Dude, that looks amazing.
It's incredible.
Like, is there any reason
I think you even said in the blurb on Sift, I think it's like, is that the most ambitious player mod ever?
It has to be.
It's up there if it's not the one. Yeah. Like, it's got to be.
And do you need like a remaster if you already have fans doing the work like that? You know, Bethesda's already got on board with the mods and like, you know,
I will say
people are stealing mods.
Right. Well, I will say this. If they do on the consoles what they did with Fallout 4 and make the Skyrim remaster mod compatible for the consoles, like, that's probably worth it. I mean, I'm sure there's a ton of people that only play stuff on consoles and haven't played the PC version of that, and giving them a chance to play it, you know, in a better looking version, something closer to what, you know, the original vanilla PC version would have looked like with all the expansion stuff. And if you can make it work with mods on the consoles like Fallout 4 does, that's a pretty good thing. I mean, it wouldn't be for me, but like that would be pretty cool.
I'm not saying it won't sell, because there's a whole generation now of kids that were kids when the Skyrim came out who are now old enough to where their parents are like, you can play Skyrim. So there's a market for it. Don't get me wrong. I don't think it'll flop. I just think personally for people like us, there's very little reason for it.
But I will say, all you got to do is play that theme song with the Vikings, like chanting the dragon language, and I'm just like, yeah, Skyrim, let's play it again. You know, I'm a super easy mark for that game.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't. I mean, it's a cool idea, but I don't think I'll be tearing myself away from whatever I'm playing this fall to play it.
Yep. Another rumor swirling around, a new Wolfenstein. I am totally down with that.
I like the last one a lot.
It reminds me a lot of Doom. Like, it's like this...
id has really nailed the ability, like, you know, or not, well, I wasn't id, but like, Bethesda's really seemed to kind of hit on this formula for distilling what these classic shooters need to be turned into to work as a modern game, but also as a game that evokes the original game you loved.
Yeah.
And Wolfenstein does that great. Doom does it better, I think. And I'll play more Wolfenstein. No problem. I never thought I'd say that again.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't even bother with Wolfenstein, and Blair Butler actually gave me her copy and said, "You have to play this."
Yeah.
I'm like, really? I have to play Wolfenstein?
No, I needed to be convinced as well.
Yeah, and I played it, and I was like, I called her that night. I was like, "This is great."
Yeah.
Like, I would never have touched that game if she hadn't made me, like, forced it on me, basically.
I honestly think I may have liked Wolfenstein a little more than Doom, believe it or not. Just for the tone of the game and just, I don't know. The story in Doom is really stupid and
but I like
the gameplay better in Doom.
Yeah,
I think I like everything else better in Wolfenstein.
I like the visual trappings of Doom more.
Yeah.
But it's a coin toss.
Well, obviously,
it's a coin toss in a matter of taste. It's not like I'm not saying Wolfenstein's a worse game or anything.
Well, yeah, obviously Doom's a much better looking game. I mean, there's no doubt about that. But yeah, I really was shockingly surprised. Almost kind of the same way with Doom. Like, just very pleasantly surprised at how good it was. And so if another one comes, I think that makes perfect sense for their business. I think people will buy it. I think people are into it. You know, they've kind of rebooted that franchise. I mean, a lot of people who played that Wolfenstein probably never even knew it was one of the first ever like first-person shooters. Like, and that's great. Like, I love that. And maybe they went back and played the originals. You know, I love how in Doom they actually just had the original levels right in the new Doom, so you could kind of check them out and see where the whole series came from, which is cool. If you actually think about it in the game, it doesn't make a lick of sense, but who cares? It's video games, people. Let's see, what else we're going to talk about. Evil Within 2. The Evil Within 2.
Mm-hmm. I did not play Evil Within.
I haven't either. I have not played it, and I do not understand why. Because I love horror games. I love Mikami. Like, why did I not play that game?
I don't know. I mean, I don't particularly like horror games, and I just sort of... my canary in that coal mine was Mike Benson, who loves horror games. We used to work on X-Play, and he played it, and I said, so how is it? He's like, you don't need to worry about it.
Yeah.
Like he's a horror game fanatic, and he's just like, he's like, I dug it, but it's probably not going to do anything for you. Like, so I just didn't bother.
Yeah, it seems like it has like a bit of a cult following.
Yeah, I mean, there's for sure is people that love it and will defend it and claim but it's just like horror games aren't a priority for me. So I mean, I don't know why you haven't played it.
Yeah,
but like
that's what I'm saying.
It didn't transcend anything that like made me think, oh, I better jump on that shit.
I think it's the same thing for you. Like, I just think I have my feelers out there. And my feelers weren't bringing back, what I needed to motivate me to play it. I didn't need to play it for review or whatever. Someone else was handling it, and so...
Like, I was curious, but it wasn't enough to tear me away from whatever I was doing at the time.
Yeah, I mean, it sold pretty well. I remember the ads being all over billboards in L.A. when it came out.
Yeah, they did not
They
kid
put
around.
a lot of marketing behind that. That might have been the biggest marketing budget in the West that a Mikami game ever had.
Yeah, a lot of screaming people on buses.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. But it's like, even just watching the footage that we're showing right now, I'm like, why the hell didn't I play this game? Like, it's right in my freaking wheelhouse. Maybe I need to go back and give it a whirl.
Nice.
I know that's never going to happen, but I'll mention that and say that to myself. But I know I'll probably never play this game. I just don't have time. Maybe when I'm old and I have all the time in the world. But maybe I play the sequel, though.
Yeah. How will you know what's going on?
Watch a YouTube video. Let's see. Prey 2. We talked about this not that long ago on the show. It sure looks like it's happening.
Yeah. Maybe with a name change.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
I liked what I saw, but before they pulled the plug on the previous version, so I wonder how much of that will survive the transition. I assume it's different people.
Yeah, it's like I said before. We saw a legitimate demo at Judges Week at E3. Like that, I saw somebody. I think it was someone on Kind of Funny this week say that they were at the same thing I was at, and they said that they liked it better than Skyrim at that event. I would not agree with that at all, but it was pretty impressive what they showed us. And so, you know, a lot of times when you hear about games being canceled, like when you hear it, you're like, that makes sense. Because you played the game at some event and it was like a piece of crap, or the concept just wasn't working or whatever. When I heard Prey 2 was canceled, I was like, what? That doesn't make sense. Like, because they showed us, like, sometimes they show you, like, a demo, and you can tell that it was just this thing that was just chopped out of the game. And it's like this discrete, self-contained thing. But then there are demos that you get where, like, they're playing the whole game. And you can see, like, they're just showing you, like, a couple missions, but you can see, like, the NPCs standing around waiting to, like, give you more missions. And, like, that's the way that demo was. So you could see that, like, the game was there. And that's why I was shocked whenever I heard that it was canceled. So, not surprised it's coming back either. I'm guessing the developer was probably the problem with the game. It's probably just way too slow. They weren't getting the game done in time. They decided to can it because they had lost a lot of money. But they probably also looked at the fact that people still care about it so long ago. So, that's Bethesda. Bethesda has quite the lineup as well.
Yeah. And I still think
if two of those rumors come true, they'll have a great press conference.
Well, I still think they're going to... There's a major Fallout 4 DLC expansion.
There is. They'll definitely show Fallout 4. Far Harbor.
There's got to be more.
Yeah. Otherwise, people are going to revolt over the money they spent on
$30 season pass. Yeah.
Well, they bought it early, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm sure we'll see Fallout DLC. Bethesda's struggling to try to fix the multiplayer in Doom.
Well, what about Quake? Do you think there'll be a Quake, or is
I had Quake down here, but honestly, I've never even seen
pretty soon.
I haven't seen a legitimate rumor for it.
True.
I see people throwing it around like maybe they'll show Quake, but I mean,
it seems like an obvious next step after they've revitalized Wolfenstein and Doom, but like you
how
might
is it
as
that
well go for the
Bethesda
trifecta.
owns every old school shooter IP?
They bought id.
Yeah, I mean it's insane that they've got all of them.
You forget how much id dominated. It was like basically
it was
id games and Marathon if you had a Mac.
Yeah,
and that was it.
You're
it was
right.
on Bungie. And then at some point, like 3D Realms popped in with some Duke Nukem, but Duke Nukem was more like, well, I finished all the Doom. I might as well just play this stupid thing, you know?
Yeah, it's like, but with Quake, it's like, is there a market for Quake? You've already got Unreal, which has struggled.
If you can invent
You've got Lawbreakers from Cliff.
If you can take Quake and turn it, more of a Quake 2 idea. If you can take Quake and make me a campaign that captures the feel of Quake the way Doom did, I'm in.
Yeah.
No question.
I don't
know if you're going to ever capture the Quake 3 arena multiplayer feel again.
Yeah.
But if you want to just make it like a single player experience that matches Doom, any day of the week.
Yeah. I just feel like the market for arena shooters is getting really saturated. And then you have people who are buying into Overwatch hardcore. It's going to be even interesting to watch what happens with Battlefield 1 and Call of Duty Infinite Warfare, because people are so into Overwatch, man. And I don't know how much of a crossover there is between the COD audience and
the
CODience, nice, and the people who are playing Overwatch, to see if it really is pulling those. Me personally, I feel like they're completely different games. They're both first-person shooters, but they feel completely different to me. I see no carryover, but I'm sure there are people that are going to get totally obsessed with Overwatch, and trying to pull them off of that to go play something else might be a challenge. And you start talking about, like I said, Lawbreakers with Cliff, and there's a free-to-play. There's 50 free-to-play arena shooters out there right now that all function pretty darn well. So I don't know. I don't know if Quake has a space. Doom seems to be doing okay. It came in third?
Month,
or was it second? I can't remember. Second or third? The month it came out. The multiplayer servers are empty already for Doom.
That's what I say. If you're going to do a Quake, focus on the single.
But Quake isn't known for campaigns, though, really.
It's not known, but you could still do it.
Yeah.
People remember it.
Doom is probably 50-50 for me, whether I remembered it for the Actually, no, I remember Doom more for the campaign.
Yeah, well, online wasn't quite there yet.
Then,
it was more of a LAN thing, and that was a hard thing to set up.
Yeah.
Quake, that was Quake's claim to fame. Was A, it was 3D, and B, you could play online.
Yeah.
But I associate Quake 1 and 2 far more with the single-player campaigns because I had shitty dial-up at the time. Yeah. Quake 3 is the one that I think of as multiplayer.
Yeah.
And you never know. If they took Quake, if you made a Quake 3 update on multiplayer equivalent par of what you did with Wolfenstein and Doom, you might pull some people away from what's already out there. That might be enough to get me to at least sit up and look.
It's crowded. It's a really, really crowded genre right now. All right, let's move on. Let's talk about Ubisoft. Ubisoft, the publisher whose press conferences have improved drastically over 4 or 5 years ago when they had Mr. Caffeine.
Yeah, Mr. Caffeine is certainly one of your lower points.
Well, they used to have terrible press conferences. Regardless of who hosted them.
Remember the time James Cameron talked for 20 minutes about Avatar with no B-roll?
Yeah.
That was amazing.
Yeah, talked about a game that they never showed.
Yeah.
Then there was, all the Just Dance things that they would always have.
Or the time they did the weird laser tag thing.
Oh yeah, in the crowd where people ran around and acted like they were zapping each other with laser. Yeah, they have
which never became anything.
Nope, nothing. No. It's almost like the vitality sensor. It really, Ubisoft has had some bizarre press conferences. Yeah. It's almost like a culture shock thing where they don't quite understand what's cool in the West. I don't even know. It's inexplicable to me how their press conferences have been so terrible. But they've gotten better.
Aisha Tyler definitely
She's
helps.
A good host. She classes it up a little bit. She knows games.
Yeah, she's into it.
She has good comedic delivery. She has good energy. Just getting rid of people like Mr. Caffeine was a huge bump up. So Ubisoft, though, is a little bit of a wild card. Watch Dogs 2 debuted this week, shown off. Worst kept secret ever.
Yeah.
Matt, what's your impressions of Watch Dogs? I almost made Watch Dogs 2 its own Big Six topic. But it kind of stuck out when we're just doing publisher by publisher previews. So I snuck it in here into Ubisoft, assuming we might spend a little bit of time on it.
Well, they're really trying. They're trying real hard to sell the edgy gray hat hacker thing to me. That's for sure. I don't know if I buy it. I am a fan of games that take place in San Francisco.
For sure, especially where you can drive.
Yes.
San Francisco is the best location for a driving game.
And I felt like Watch Dogs 1 was a pretty decent proof of concept for a real game.
Yeah.
It felt like, I think I've said it before, but it felt like when Ubisoft makes a Ubisoft game, they start with Watch Dogs and like build on it to make it Assassin's Creed or make it Tom Clancy or whatever. Yeah. It just felt like the most generic Ubi game imaginable, and I didn't finish it, but I spent an inordinate amount of time walking the streets and stealing people's money if I decided I didn't like them. That's about all I used that game for. So, I mean, I have some hopes for this game. I mean, the trailer looks gorgeous. I'm sure this is not actual real-time footage, but like, I really want Watch Dogs to be good. Like, there's a good game in there somewhere if they can find it. The tone of this
game is completely different from the first game.
Yeah, well, clearly, Aiden Pierce has been focus tested into oblivion, so he will not be in this one.
It's like
no great loss, I think. I mean,
yeah, I mean, look, the first game I thought was a little too serious and dry.
Yeah.
Took itself a little too seriously, but I feel like they've overcompensated, overcorrected here with this new one. Like,
maybe I don't know how much of that is the game and how much of it is the marketing. You know, like this is a trailer that's designed to be like, we're not Watch Dogs 1. You know, like I get what they're trying to differentiate. I don't know if that's how the game itself will be. I think we're going to need to see a gameplay demo to kind of get a better gauge of that. Because this is a very realistic-looking city they're modeling here.
Well, yeah, some of these shots like photorealistic. Yeah. Like, I don't know if that's real. I mean, look, Ubi has pulled crap like this before.
I mean, yeah, absolutely.
With Watch Dogs.
With Watch Dogs, for sure. But at the same time, like that one shot of, I think that looked like California Street to me.
Yeah.
Like, there are mods you can apply to GTA 5 that make it look like that on PC. So it's not like it's out of range if they decide to really put the effort into it.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm assuming it's PC version.
And it has been 3 years. I mean, there's maybe. I want to believe Ubisoft with your X-Files of a game here.
See, I mentioned on Sifted that I thought this reminded me a little bit of Sunset Overdrive. Just the whole, like...
The attitude of the underground attitude and the whole, like, there's a community of hackers as opposed to your lone wolf thing in the first game.
Let's go hack some ATM machines, brah. Word. Like, yeah, like...
There's a little try hard to this trailer.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah, it just... There's something about it that's just not...
And if you haven't seen it, look up on YouTube the Full House theme song mashup with this trailer because it's amazing.
It's on Sifted, actually, if you want to just search Full House on Sifted, it'll come up. But actually, it's funny. Full House has become fodder for a bunch of games. Mm-hmm. Like, I think if you even search Sifted and you search Full House, like 3 different videos will come up with different games doing like the Full House intro using the game engine. I think Grand Theft Auto, there's one for that too, so check it out. They're pretty funny. But yeah, you know, I'm not as excited for Watch Dogs 2 as I thought it was going to be now that I've seen it. I'm sure I'll play it. I'm sure I'll enjoy it. But I thought it might be something that I was really like, oh, this might be like one of my games of the show for E3. And look, I haven't played it. So, you know, withholding judgment, obviously. But just based upon and there's a lot of marketing. Like, they've put out a bunch of stuff about this already. So I don't feel like I'm basing it on nothing. Just a trailer that's being cut every 10 seconds or whatever. So, I don't know. I'm interested to see everyone else's response. Seemed like on Sifted, most people were pretty hyped for it. A lot of people were like, oh, it seems like it's doing all the things I wished the first one would have done. So, maybe I'm just in the minority on this one. It happens. So, we'll see. Next, we're going to talk about Ghost Recon Wildlands. Talked about this 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago on the show, because I just put out that new trailer. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on it. I think this game might end up being one in the discussion for Game of the Show for E3. I feel like we're going to get to see a lot of it and play a lot of it, and a lot of times that kind of tips the scales a little bit for games. Another open world game.
They're gonna have to show something that really blows my socks off to get me excited about another guys in paramilitary gear in an open world thing here. Like, I mean, it looks nice, but like, I'm not quite seeing where what's here yet. Like I said before, I need to see more. I need to see it played. I need to see what's going to pull me in on this, especially after, as much as I enjoyed The Division, I have not felt the need to go back to it. And this seems to have a scent of The Division about it.
I would say a scent, but The Division's all on foot. Like, you know, it is an open world game, but in like the most simple sense of the phrase. Like, this really is an open world game. I would say this is like a serious Just Cause. It's probably the way I would describe it. Because you still have, like, all the parachuting, all the skydiving, all the vehicles to drive.
Where are the mechs?
Yeah, well, that'll be in the DLC. But I have a feeling the story in this will probably be a lot better. Like, I don't know, I guess another game I would probably compare it to is, like, Phantom Pain, Metal Gear Solid 5.
Yeah.
Like, it kind of has that same vibe to it.
If they can get that together with gameplay like that feels as smooth but has something to do between outposts,
right.
like, you might have a pretty damn good experience on your hands.
People like Metal Gear Solid 5 a lot. And
I liked it a lot. I liked it a lot when I was actually playing it, as opposed to waiting for the load screens to finish or running across the open desert where nothing was happening.
I would say the issues that I had with Metal Gear Solid 5, likely based upon prior games I've played by these developers and from Ubisoft, will be fixed for this game.
Well, will probably also be finished.
Right. Good point.
Is, not to blame Kojima Productions for that. I think there were mitigating circumstances, but
some would say the story, I'm not a big fan of Kojima's storytelling, if you want to call it that. Some people love it. I always feel like it's overindulgent, and
I think even the diehard fans admit that, like, you can clearly see that Metal Gear Solid 5 sort of doesn't quite finish itself.
Right. Well, I think, they say it was chopped off or whatever, and blah, blah, blah. So, but, to me, those stories are incoherent. And they're really hard to follow, and I'm not going to go read, like, some 50-page fact to try to figure out what the hell is going on. It'll certainly be a much more straightforward story with this, I'm assuming.
Well, I look forward to which drug lord we're trying to take down and why, and the touching story of squad member number 3 and how he wants to see his daughter again.
Yeah.
It'll be great.
Yep.
It's going to be great.
Let's move on. We're going to talk about For Honor. That was kind of a darling at E3 last year. Sleeper pick.
This is definitely the Ubisoft game.
Last year.
This is the Ubisoft game I'm most excited to see more of this year, I think.
Put out a trailer today showing off Vikings. So Vikings is like the new faction. Or did they talk about Vikings last year? I can't remember.
I don't remember. I don't think so.
Well, they had 3 last year, but I didn't know if they mentioned.
I may have just been
Vikings
assuming there would be Vikings.
Yeah, it makes too much sense, doesn't it? Yeah, there's like samurai, Vikings, ninja. I don't even know.
Probably knights.
Knights, yeah.
Can't have honor without Teutonic knights.
That's a good point.
I hope I can't remember his name, but I hope that creative director who
is on stage once again.
Is awesome.
Yeah.
He's clearly this is a game he's wanted to make for a while, and he's very enthusiastic about it. So yeah, bring it on.
Yeah, I hope it feels as good to play as I think it's going to. I mean, I had a limited experience with it at E3 last year. I didn't get to play as much as I wanted to because there was just too much to play and not enough time. But the thing about this trailer that really hit me was the weight of the sword attacks and how like one attack can like finish you, which puts you on edge while you're playing it. A little bit of that Dark Souls, Demon Souls, Bloodborne vibe. A little bit
Bushido Blade 1.
Yeah,
the tension of those games.
Yeah, absolutely right. This like close quarters thing right here really just blew my mind. I'm like, if this is really the type of stuff that's in the game, like sign me up. So I'm really excited for it. I know that there's much more else to talk about. They've shown so little of it at this point.
Yeah, some Vikings. So.
Yeah. Is that a Viking right there?
I think it's a
Viking.
Viking.
I guess it was known already that Vikings were in the game.
It's either a Viking or a barbarian.
Or a Mongol.
But it looks Viking. I'm no expert, but looks Viking to me.
Here's a game that a lot of people are forgetting. And I saw a lot of previews for E3 at various websites and where they go publisher by publisher. Kind of what we're doing right now. Nobody mentioned this game. South Park. That game just was shown at E3.
And then kind of vanished.
And completely vanished. Like...
Yeah.
Best title for a game ever. Literally, like, ever. But, the first South Park RPG won, like, a ton of awards.
Yeah,
like,
it's pretty good.
It was pretty good. Like, I really enjoyed it. I mean, obviously, they're going to learn some things from their first outing to make it better this time. I think this game could maybe have a shot.
Yeah.
At, being in the Game of Show discussions, depending on whether we get exposed to it. Last year, all we got was a trailer. Didn't get to play it. I'm assuming this year we'll get to play it, although it is completely gone underground. Like, there's not been a single piece of media, a single press release, no new screenshots, nothing for this game for the whole year.
That's cool. Like, work on it and make it good, and get it out.
Yeah.
Like, if you got to run silent for that, I got no problem.
Ubisoft struck gold with this because wasn't THQ the original publisher of this game?
Yes.
And they probably bought it for a bag of hockey pucks.
Yeah.
And that game could do gangbuster sales wise as well.
Could be. And the fractured butthole is certainly something that sticks in your head.
Butthole.
Makes you you want more of the games just because you want to see what they call them.
Right. Assassin's Creed. You think we're going to see Assassin's Creed at E3?
No.
No?
I don't think we'll see Assassin's Creed. I think we'll get a big reveal of next year's E3, and I think they're gonna. I think they're just gonna let that series cool off.
No mention of it or anything.
I don't think so, unless like I don't know, there's like a mobile thing or like another installment of Chronicles, or in terms of like next year's real full-fledged installment. I think they're gonna just run completely silent.
I don't know. I mean, that would break their pattern because usually the pattern is
they're not releasing anything.
They do They do a press event in April-ish. Then they do that initial preview round with the press, and then it's shown at E3 in full, and then it comes out 6 months later.
Let people want it. Let it cool.
Are they going to ever want it again?
I mean, depending on what they do with it, yeah, I'd be happy to see Assassin's Creed comes back.
I mean, the movie is the movie coming out next year?
The movie's coming out the week after Star Wars in December, and it's going to get buried as a result.
It sure is.
So
it's probably not the smartest
decision. I should
decision.
add that Warcraft is on track to make about $30 million this opening weekend domestically, which is actually lower than I expected it. I thought it was going to make 40.
Did great in China.
Yeah, broke records in China. I mean, it's going to be very interesting. I think.
Didn't it beat Star Wars in China?
It beat everything in China.
It
set a new Tuesday night preview midnight screening record in China, and I think it's on track to beat Fast and the Furious 7, which was like
crazy.
the previous overseas record holder.
Which is even crazier.
Yeah, I mean Furious 7 was. I mean that was the Fast and the Furious movies are overseas juggernauts. But to me, here's the thing. It costs like $160 million to make that movie.
Yeah.
It's going to be hard to make a profit because usually you get a smaller cut of the box office from China. But Legendary Pictures is owned by a Chinese company, which means they might have a better revenue cut than a normal American studio might get. So I think what's going to happen with Warcraft, because the movie, I saw a press screening of it earlier this week. It's one act of a 3-act story. It's not a complete movie. There's nothing there. You get to the end and you're like, what? Like, that was it? Like, there's no resolution, no nothing. So, clearly they expect to make more of these things. I think what's going to happen is going to be a big enough hit in China that they're going to be able to justify doing at least one more. They're going to cut the budget way down to like $50 million or so. And they're going to do the Star Trek thing. The Star Trek movies used to do this thing where they calculate exactly how much money they're going to make, and then they decided, we'll set the budget to this, and that will be profitable.
We're guaranteed to make money.
And we're good. And so I think that's what's going to happen. The similar thing could happen with Assassin's Creed, the movie. It definitely has more star power in the mainstream because it's got Michael Fassbender.
Right.
But I don't know if you're going to be able to break out of this. It's kind of trapped between Christmas and Star Wars, and I don't know if people are going to want to go see Michael Fassbender assassinate people as their holiday film. So we'll see. I mean, we'll see.
It's going to be weird having a Ubisoft press conference without Assassin's Creed. It will be the first time in 7 years.
At least.
That's crazy to think about.
Yeah.
But it needed to happen. It needed to be done.
I mean, remember, next year is Assassin's Creed's 10th anniversary.
Yeah. Yep.
It's been 10 years.
It's insane, dude.
Because I still kind of think of that series as new.
Yeah, so do I. It's not new at all.
Because we're fucking old.
Yeah, you're totally right. The last thing we're going to talk about with Ubi is just VR. Ubisoft seems to be into VR much more than other third-party publishers. There's already 2 games that's announced. Ubi said there are 3 more coming at E3. For whatever reason, it's been much more brave jumping into the VR waters. Mm-hmm. In contrast to the Take-Two, whose CEO says basically over my dead body will make VR games.
Ubisoft has the advantage that they tend to make money hand over fist on their normal releases, so they can kind of take some risks here and there, and they love being first.
Well, who knows what will even happen once Vivendi completes its hostile takeover.
Yeah.
It took over Gameloft, which was also owned by the Guillemets. Mm-hmm.
What's going
That's
on?
That's a dirty pool, man.
Yeah.
What's going on there? So it'll be interesting. This may be like the last UB press conference with like the same spirit it's always had.
Yeah, because then what happens? Does it get lumped in with Activision?
I don't even know. I don't know. Activision, Blizzard is its own.
Yeah, but was Vivendi related to that still?
I don't think so. I think no. Vivendi sold all its shares out of that. Yeah, they're out. Like they're completely out of games right now, and they're trying to get back in. Which you had it already. Like
I have my issues in places with how Ubisoft runs things, but I don't think I want to see what Vivendi would do.
I definitely do not, because I guarantee you a lot of people will leave Ubisoft if that happens. So
you'll have a huge brain drain.
Yep,
yeah.
That'll be a problem. All right, let's move on. Let's talk about Microsoft. Like I said at the beginning of the show, there's an opportunity here now for Microsoft to make a splash with the hardware. Mm-hmm. Sony not showing the Neo. Xbox does show the Scorpion or whatever the hell it's named. Scorpio. They can make a big splash here. Mm-hmm. If they big price drop of Xbox One and say, here's the other version, like Xbox One needs a price drop at E3. It has to happen.
Yeah.
I hate to tell them that, like, you know, the battle's over. Like, at this point, you need to get enough boxes out there so you can make money off your software. And the way they do that is to drop the price. And, you know, introducing a new piece of hardware when your current piece of hardware isn't selling all that great at the price it's at, it's like, to me, either you keep the hardware you got and you drop the price, or you get the new, more powerful hardware and sell it at the same price. You can't sell the new hardware for more than what people are paying for Xbox One right now, in my opinion anyway, if you want it to have any kind of success with it.
It'd be a tough sell.
To me, a really tough sell. So hardware-wise, there is kind of a crack there where Microsoft could kind of slide in there and have a big show showing off their new hardware. Let's talk software. Gears of War 4. Played the beta. Liked it. Didn't love it.
I expect this will be one of their tent poles.
Oh, yeah. This will be like their big game of E3.
Hopefully a better demo than last year.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think it can get any worse. For a game that's that exciting, generally, I mean, they made it seem as boring and dull as possible. I have a feeling that the demo at this year's show will be guns blazing.
Yeah.
Like Cliff Bleszinski style. Like, Cliff used to show the best section of Gears of War at E3.
Whereas, like, last year kind of had this thing, it's like, oh, it's the Thinking Man Gears of War. Like, no one wants the Thinking Man's Gears of War. We just want to see things get chainsawed.
Like, you never realized you were watching the best part of a Gears game at E3 until you would play it then. You'd be like, oh, the best part of this whole game was a part that they showed at E3, which is really smart.
Yeah.
Like, if you're trying to sell your game, that's what you should do. I look for them to change tact at E3 and have a guns blazing demo of this game to really get people excited about it. Because people are apathetic about this game.
Yeah.
Like, really apathetic about it. Even people who are big Xbox 360 fans, 360 owners, the hype around this is just so low. And, I don't know. They've got to do something. Like, the beta came and went. There's really no hype around it at all. They put up a comparison screenshot on Twitter yesterday showing that the graphics in the multiplayer have been drastically improved. Like, really drastically. I'm not, like, being facetious. Like, it's like night and day what they've done since the beta. So they've made a lot of progress in just a few months on the multiplayer visuals. And, you know, their goal there is to hit that 60 frames a second. So, I don't know. This is another franchise to me that's teetering on the brink. Like, I felt like Halo was and still kind of is. But I feel like a lot of people are over Halo. And I feel like a lot of people are over Gears of War at this point. Like, I feel like it needs to have, one, a good showing at E3. And two, this game needs to be really freaking good. Mm-hmm. Or Microsoft's two biggest IPs could be on life support and go into PC.
Yeah. I don't care about Gears of War at this point. This thing needs to show me something. I don't know what it needs to show me to get me to. I don't know.
I mean, I'll be perfectly honest with you. I played the multiplayer, and I was just like, I've done this already. Like, I really just felt like I had played this already for hundreds of hours, because I had. It's like, there's nothing unique about it at all. And I think what you're seeing with Bethesda, with Doom, is like, yeah, people love the campaign, but it only goes so far. If you want to become a part of, like, pop culture lexicon, and you want to see your game in the sales charts after the first month, it has to have some kind of a special multiplayer spark. Or it's going to have its one flash in the pan, it's going to sell well for 1 month, and then it's going to be intense spot in month 2, and then never seen again. I mean, if you want to put up GTA, Call of Duty type numbers, that's what you've got to do. And based upon what I played of the multiplayer so far, it definitely does not have the magical sauce that it's going to need. So, we'll see. It needs to have a really good showing. Halo Wars 2. Do you care about this at all, Matt?
No.
Me either. I really don't. Like, the novelty of the first Halo Wars, I was like, this is cool.
Yeah.
Like, I have a Warthog unit, like, in a strategy game. That's cool.
Look at the little elite with the sword.
That's so cute. Cool.
It had a really cool CG intro, as I recall.
But literally, after the first, like, I think I even got the game free or something. And I think I played it for like an hour and a half and was like, I don't really care.
Maybe if they, like everything else, this goes to PC, maybe I'd like to play it with a mouse.
Yeah.
That might be... Part of my problem with it was, like, I have never found an RTS, like, controller interface acceptable.
Yeah.
I mean,
tough.
This... Here in, I think Battle for Middle-earth 2 on the Xbox 360 was pretty good.
Yeah.
For what it was, but, like, I would never choose it.
Halo Wars 2, again, going back to what I was saying before about how the shine is worn off the Halo star at this point. Mm-hmm. I mean, look, they just put Warthogs back in Halo 5 and nobody could care less. Like, people have just lost interest in the franchise. And so, this made sense back when Halo was, like, one of the top 3 IPs in the industry. I mean, I think I could probably go so far as to say that at one point it was top 5, at least, IPs in the industry. Then, doing an RTS spin-off of a top 5 property made sense. Now that Halo has kind of sunk back and with the pack, I don't know that this makes any sense at all, to be honest with you. One thing I will say, and if you look at the graphic, it says Vicious Cycle. Microsoft has fallen into this vicious cycle where it's Halo, Gears of War, Forza, over and over and over again.
Now they don't even have Fable to break it up now.
No, they don't. No, because they dropped that. Although, who knows? That may end up coming back. There's weird, crowdfunding stuff that might be happening or whatever.
I mean, this is, I guess there's probably, just Halo Wars 2 just looks stream as like we needed to fill a slot.
Yeah.
To me.
Yeah. And they're like, these guys have already made one. They could probably get one done in 18 months or 2 years. So let's start talking.
And I think it's also something of a red herring because what I actually expect to see is I think you're going to see a new Age of Empires.
Oh.
Because Age of Empires 2 HD sold so damn well.
Yeah, it did.
Shockingly well.
Yeah.
They even made new DLC for it.
Yeah.
And I think you're going to see more Age of Empires. I think they have some of that.
I like that prediction. We're not even at our predictions yet.
I didn't think of that until you just started talking about Halo Wars 2 because I wasn't even thinking about Halo Wars 2.
Yeah.
But that reminded me of Ensemble, and I'm like, oh, yeah.
They make this other game.
This other thing that's worked out pretty well, and yeah, maybe they'll do that. Okay.
Scalebound, delayed out of 2016 into 2017.
Bastards.
This is Xbox One's ace in the hole, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. This, to me, is the one game that, if it turns out to be excellent, could actually move hardware.
Yeah.
You're not just counting on your existing fans who love Halo and Forza and Gears.
Odds that Scalebound is one of the reasons for the new hardware?
That's an interesting
maybe
point.
They ran into some performance problems that could only be solved by a bit of a boost.
That could be. I don't know that I see that with this game personally, though.
I don't know.
I feel like that might just be poor programming on the part.
That could be. Well, you never know who's...
I mean, it looks good, but it's not one of the best... It wouldn't even be one of the best-looking Xbox One games, I don't think.
No, well, even like you look at this and it's just like, look at the frames.
Yeah.
It's struggling.
Falling away. Yeah, just losing those frames left and right. But you're right. I mean, this could be part of the impetus to have better hardware, or it could just be...
Or it could have just been like, we're making this new thing... This is going to run a lot better on the new thing. Let's just wait.
Or it could just be, oh, man, we really screwed up, and Xbox One is way too underpowered.
That could be it, too.
It could be a bunch of those things. I mean, for me personally, Scalebound is the most important Xbox One exclusive to me.
I would
agree,
personally.
No other Xbox One exclusive I care more about than this game.
I might put Crackdown 3 over it if Crackdown 2 had been better. Now I don't trust it. You know what I mean?
I've talked about it on the show before.
I know you don't care about Crackdown.
No affinity for Crackdown whatsoever. I thought it sucked from the very first one and the second one, and it didn't suck. It was just a mediocre game that, for whatever reason, some people seem to get into, and I just wasn't one of them. So.
Right.
And, I'm not going to diss anybody who does like it. It's just not my cup of tea. Let's talk about Sea of Thieves.
Mm-hmm. We haven't really seen anything of that for a year.
No. Well, they've done little stuff. Like, they put out, the soundtrack for it. They've done, a bunch of fan competitions for it.
So you think this is, going to be like a Destiny division kind of thing? Like a modern MMO take?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, different. It's a pirate's life for ye. It's not another, military shooter, drab, awful future that you don't want to be a part of type video game.
It's an awful past you wouldn't want to be a part of.
But it's got colors.
It does have color, and it has water, and it has boats.
But that's what I'm saying. It's that makes it completely different already. It's you're on ships, presumably fighting other people in ships and these ships are full of people, real people who are playing online. I mean, that sounds pretty fun.
Yeah.
I mean, you think about what were the best parts of the last couple Assassin's Creed games.
Yeah.
That. And you weren't able to, join up with, 10 of your buddies and hop on a ship and hit the 7 seas and, try to board other people's ships and take their ships. I mean, imagine if that's what it is. It's you going out on the seas as marauders and, overtaking people's ships and then adding that ship to your fleet. Mm-hmm. And then you can put 20 people in your crew and go out and try to take ships.
I want to be that guy that pulls a rope.
Yeah,
that's what I want to do in a video game.
Yeah. Look, it's Rare. Rare is a complete wild card right now. Yeah. I mean, it really is. There's just no two bits about it. I mean, once upon a time, obviously that wouldn't have been the case, but now they are. But one thing I will say is on a technical level, it looks like they've still got some pretty damn good programmers there.
Yeah, there might be some juice in the tank.
Yeah, so. That's what I'm saying. This game, what we've seen of it, looks pretty darn good.
Yeah.
What all that's left is to find out what really the game... We know it's an MMO already, but we just don't know the nuts and bolts of the gameplay, and that should be shown in full. I expect to get a huge demo of this game at the E3 press conference for Microsoft. At least I hope so.
I hope so.
I mean, the game is... They still don't have a release date for it.
I don't think we'll see it this year.
Yeah.
It's a Rare game. Rare games come in their own time.
They do, but they're owned by Microsoft now, so things change when you get a new owner.
Yeah. And yet, Microsoft may have learned what happens when you rush Rare.
Yeah. Best looking water ever, by the way.
Yeah,
it is the best looking video game water I've ever seen.
I'm more concerned with what the bottom of a Avatar's foot looks like.
Well, he works on HoloLens now, so you don't have to worry about that. Crackdown 3, we kind of talked about that already.
Yeah.
I don't think that game's coming this year.
I think you're probably right, but that's weird.
There was supposed to be a beta this summer. Mm-hmm. Or there still is supposed to be one.
Yeah, the summer just started.
So. They had mentioned that it may release as multiplayer only at first.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, it was a multiplayer only thing. They'll add a campaign later. What is it, Street Fighter V?
That makes no sense whatsoever.
No.
For a game like Crackdown. I mean, Crackdown is a single player game. At least to the best of my recollection. Am I crazy?
Well, the second one had co-op.
Right.
I mean, they both had co-op.
Yeah.
Co-op didn't work too well in the first one, but it's a lot more fun with a friend. But I don't know. There wasn't really a distinction between campaign and multiplayer in the other two. It was either you were playing by yourself, or you were playing with friends in the city as co-op.
Right.
So you're kind of well, what are you shipping?
Yeah.
I mean, you could go to events and start multiplayer events that were competitive and stuff, but you got to wonder what they're doing.
I don't know.
And then there was that whole thing about how destructible environments are only in one of the modes. I don't remember which one was which, but it was that's weird. Why would I don't know. I think there's a lot of weird stuff going on behind the scenes we'll never know about on that game, but I do expect them to show it.
The tech for that game has been impressive.
Yeah,
I'll say that much. That gets me excited if they make good use of it. But who knows? We'll see. Mm-hmm. Recore, another game that was shown at E3. We haven't heard a peep from since. Inafune is working on this game. I feel like this man at this point is stretched completely too thin. I have a feeling he's working on it with some guy who used to work on Metroid Prime. I'm guessing the guy who worked on Metroid Prime is doing all the heavy lifting here, and Inafune is just peeking his head in every once in a while.
Yeah. Inafune is buried under Mighty No. 9 death threats.
Yeah, it's been a rough ride for Mighty No. 9. And that trailer that came out.
I have never seen a developer disavow publicity that hard before in my life. Like, it's like, we didn't do that. Like, we had nothing to do with it. It was our publishing partner or whatever.
How did Deep Silver allow that to happen, dude?
I don't know, man.
Make fun of your entire user base who would put it. Who do they think are going to buy that game?
You remember the time Deep Silver's...
It's a freaking Mega Man
remember
rip-off.
the time Deep Silver's bonus thing for the Dead Island Riptide thing was a disembodied female torso with knife wounds in
right,
it?
Yeah.
Like, Deep Silver sometimes goes way off the deep end.
Yeah, maybe that's where the name comes
from. A
from.
Deep Silver end.
Yeah. Recore, I mean, all we've really seen is just a CG trailer.
Yeah.
I mean, that wasn't even the game that they showed us at E3 last year.
I mean, it's kind of like... It's almost like a teaser trailer where it's like, in the tradition of Ori and the Blind Forest, right. Microsoft brings you a weird indie thing.
Yeah.
You know? So, I mean, you got my attention, but I need to see some stuff.
Yeah. There's really not much to say about the game.
I mean, I assume it's going to be there.
It's got to be there. I mean, Microsoft needs games.
Yeah.
I mean...
Mars needs women, Microsoft needs games.
Yeah.
A barren wasteland.
So what else can we really say about Microsoft? I mean... there's going to be another Forza. Horizon will be there.
3. There'll probably be a section about Windows 10.
Yep. And what's that whole project called where the whole Windows 10 Xbox? There's a name for it, like Helix or something like that. Yeah. Their whole crossover.
The convergence,
project.
basically. Those. Yeah, I'm sure that'll be.
They'll talk about that.
I imagine that's part of the new Xbox hardware as well. Like, there's kind of a Windows 10 box feel to it.
Phantom Dust. Do we see it again?
Maybe, but I'm not going to put money on it or anything.
Yeah, I would either.
So
they need new IP more than any of the big three. Like, they need it bad. Like, they need new series that they can build on. I mean, look, Sea of Thieves, maybe that could be it. Scalebound, maybe that could be it. But
it'd be nice to have something this year.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sick of playing those same 3 games. Yeah. And I was sick of playing Fable, too. Like,
it's been a long time since I played Fable, now that I think about it.
I mean, it doesn't surprise me.
The last Fable was 5 years ago, unless you count the stupid Kinect game,
yeah.
and I do not.
Yeah, I don't either. But, you know, they've been grinding on these same 3 or 4 franchises now for what seems like 7 years. Mm-hmm. And at some point, it's like, it's got to stop.
6 years.
Yeah. Like, I hope this is the E3 where they turn the page. I also wouldn't be surprised if there's a big push for, like, VR and HoloLens. That was one of PAX's predictions, that he thought that it might be a stealth HoloLens press conference.
Well, that gets into one of my predictions.
All right. Well, then we'll hold that. All right, let's move on to EA at E3. Mm-hmm. Another publisher that has a possibility of having a pretty good showing, I think.
Yeah.
Battlefield 1, to me, has turned out to be far bigger of a deal than I ever imagined.
Yeah, I would not have thought... I mean, let alone the World War I angle, I would not have thought Battlefield had this much gas in the tank.
Yeah, I mean, it's the most liked video game YouTube video ever, while... the new Call of Duty is the most disliked.
Yeah, and I'm sure those two things are related.
Yeah. Oh, exactly.
Yeah, so, and it's but it's a little shocking after Hardline. You're kind of ready to write this stuff off, this series off.
I mean, and Battlefield 4.
Yeah.
I mean, that was pretty much an unmitigated disaster. The servers were total garbage.
Yeah. I mean, they got it working eventually, but I think it was too late.
For me, it was way too late. Like, man, like I kept going back. I'm like, I want this game to be good. It looks so good on my PC. It's like, I want to play this. Like, make it work. And like, after a couple months, I just gave up and never went back. And then Hardline, like, that doesn't even feel like a Battlefield game to me. They probably should have named that game something else. Like, it was like, I don't know, it was like Battlefield Dub Edition or some crap. Like, it just didn't make any sense within the universe. Like, and so this
kind
one,
of bad timing. Unfortunately, not that they could have controlled it, but like it hit right around the whole lot of the police brutality and you know, it was just a bad scene for when it happened.
I didn't really enjoy the multiplayer in it all that much. Like, I don't know. I thought the campaign was pretty much garbage. I mean, Battlefield campaigns are always garbage.
They haven't been good, no.
They do a good job of showing those at E3, though, man.
Yeah.
I remember, like, the one where the building's, like, falling down on you. I was like, oh, my God, this campaign's going to be incredible. And I played it in, like, first of all, it was, like, 4 hours long. second of all, an hour into it, I was like, this is the most hackneyed, cockeyed piece of garbage.
Mm-hmm.
They just try so hard to be Call of Duty, and they just can't seem to pull it off.
They need to find their identity.
Yeah, and maybe this is a game that does it.
Maybe.
It is completely different.
Certainly, you can't really follow the Call of Duty template with this one.
Yeah.
You know, you could see them trying to struggle to kind of match Modern Warfare with the same sort of tools.
Yeah.
But now you're in your own dimension with this, and you can't say, "Oh, we'll do this just like Call of Duty did World War I," because it's never been done.
Yeah.
So hopefully, this is where they find their verve.
I also, hope that the game isn't boring.
Yeah.
It's like I feel like a lot of people are just overwhelmingly reacting to it positively just because it's different, and they aren't really thinking about what will it be like to play a game, a shooter, a multiplayer shooter, or a campaign where all you have is simple bolt action rifles and clubs, and mustard gas,
How about just I hope they remember that the Frostbite engine can destroy stuff.
Yeah. No, they said there's going to be destruction.
Okay, well, because that's one of the things that's been really weird about Battlefield 3 and 4's campaign was it really seemed to underutilize the ability to destroy things. I missed that in the multiplayer too. I remember Bad Company 2 at the end of a Gold Rush game, the battlefield was flat.
Yeah.
It was leveled because everyone was just launching mortars everywhere and artillery and stuff, and by the end of it, you had nowhere to hide. You had firefights in a hut that was no longer there anymore, and it was great. And I hope they kind of bring that back to some degree and let you, because that's World War I is perfect for that, because you had that no man's land situation where you just had that whole acres of land just burned and shelled out to nothing, and I hope they kind of capture that.
That actually segues perfectly to the next game we're going to talk about, Titanfall 2. That game, to me, needs destruction.
Yeah.
Because, the first Titanfall, it's you're this little puny human running around the battlefield with these huge, gigantic metal behemoths. Mm-hmm. But all you had to do was just, run into, an outhouse. And you're, perfectly safe. They need to have damage in Titanfall 2. You need to be able to go up to, a building in a mech and just smash it, dude, and have people inside going, ah!
Yeah, well, you need to be able to, knock an enemy mech through a building.
You need to be able to, run through a building. Yeah,
and, I want in my head sees, running, a firefight in, inside a building, and then suddenly at the outside, one of your mechs punches the enemy mech backwards, and it just falls through the building, and all of a sudden, everyone's cover's gone, no one knows what's going on.
Or the enemy, there's a bunch of people inside a building, and they're popping up from a window and shooting at you, and your ally mech just comes in and just sticks his fist right in a wall, and they're just exposed, and then pop, 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 there's so much cool stuff that could be done with destructibility in Titanfall 2, and I'm really, really hoping that's the case. I'm going to squeeze it out of Abby, try to get the information. She's pretty good, though, I got to say.
Oh, yeah.
She doesn't give up the info. She's a tough cookie. So, yeah, Titanfall 2, obviously, the other really huge game. Well, actually, there's more than 2 huge games from EA.
But in terms of, this year's.
Yep. Yeah, I think it's coming out this year.
It sounds like it.
Seems like it. Sounds like it. That's what all the talk is, but we'll see. I don't know.
It's fiscal. I mean,
I would not be shocked to see Titanfall 2 end up slipping out to that February, March time frame. It would suck, because that would mean Q4 would be starting to get a little thin at that point. But we'll see. Mass Effect Andromeda, to me, this is going to be its big coming out party. I totally feel like this game could end up being game of the show, or at least very much in the discussion. We know so little about it, and a lot of times that is one of the key components to a game having a good E3 is the limited knowledge about it beforehand. Knowing, but not knowing very much. So you care enough to learn more, and then you get there and they give you the mother load of information, and it's not, a lot of times that's just enough to really get the press going for it. I still can't believe we've seen so little of this game as long as it's been in development. I mean, look, BioWare's notoriously pretty cagey. But, man, they've been really tight-lipped about this game.
I'm just curious. I mean, I love the Mass Effect games, and my thing with this is, Mass Effect to me is Shepard and those characters.
Yeah.
And this Mass Effect Andromeda is going to have to BioWare is going to have to be at the top of its game like never before to pull me in and make me accept this new group or this new main character, whatever. I don't know how this game is going to make me stop thinking about, like, I liked Garrus better. You know, I don't know how I'm going to play this game and not constantly compare it to this, like, great experience I had with all these other memorable characters and feel like these new characters don't come up short.
I don't even look at it
I don't know.
way.
I don't know why it's Mass Effect. I know it's Mass Effect because you want brand recognition and people to automatically buy the thing. It says the name of the thing they liked before. But to me, like, I'm looking at this and I'm like, I see the trappings. I don't know if you can carry Mass Effect past the trilogy focusing on Shepard with me. That might just be a me thing.
I feel like they did a pretty, despite all the anger over the ending, like, I actually felt like they tied it up pretty well. Like, I felt like I kind of bid adieu to them.
The ending of Mass Effect 3, first off, I don't find it that horrible. Yeah. I think, especially once they patched it and added some more stuff, and the Citadel DLC is really the real ending, let's be honest. To me, it's like, Mass Effect 3 was 39 hours and 45 minutes of, like, wow, awesome, like, denouement of all these characters I loved playing with in the other two games, and then 15 minutes of, like, what? Like that was... And
it can't spoil the whole experience, that 15 minutes,
But so it doesn't bother me that much in the end. And I played it twice, and the updated ending was better. But, like, I think part of my frustration with it just came from the fact that the writer previously said, like, oh, we came up with a really cool ending. We didn't use it in Mass Effect 2 because we had to save it for Mass Effect 3. And I'm like, I kind of like fighting the giant skeleton reaper better if you're really going to get down to it. So,
it does change your perspective a little bit.
But I just, Mass Effect Andromeda has a very hard uphill battle to win me over because, like, you're going to have to justify why you named this Mass Effect.
I think you're going to be in the minority. When all the dust is settled at E3, I think it's going to be one of the games everyone's talking about.
It depends how much they embrace the exploration idea that they never quite got to in the original trilogy. There was a little bit of it there in Mass Effect 1 where you had to drive the Mako over giant empty environments and find weird little Prothean relics. But if you can take the idea, kind of like what they did in Starflight, where, like, you could go to all the planets and mine stuff. It was very much like if you almost No Man's Sky-y, I guess, in that regard. If you really embrace the exploration aspect of Mass Effect on top of giving me a story and characters as interesting and rich as the originals, you'll have me. But good luck.
All right, Star Wars. Obviously, EA has the deal with Disney for Star Wars games. You think we'll see Amy Hennig's Star Wars game at E3, even if just a teaser trailer or anything?
I think, at most, they will give us a title and like the original Battlefront teaser, which was like 10 seconds of a snowspeeder or something. I think that's it.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I don't even think we'll see that, to be honest with you.
Probably not.
The Motive one that's being developed in Montreal, I think it is. I don't think we'll see.
That's years out. I mean, frankly, I think next year's Star Wars game is Battlefront 2.
That's what I think too, man.
So, and I don't know if you show that. I think maybe you show a new expansion pack.
Do you really need to?
Not really.
Not really.
Maybe you show the Death Star expansion pack, a little bit of that, and you're done.
Yeah, it's hard, though, if you're EA to not show your Star Wars games.
Yeah.
Because you have so much money tied up into it.
But remember, EA isn't necessarily the one calling that shot.
Yeah.
That's Lucasfilm.
That's true. That's a good point.
And Lucasfilm has their plans, and if Hennig's game... Okay, look. Hennig's game is presumably coming out in 2018, right? What's the 2018 Star Wars movie? The young Han Solo picture. So you've got someone who worked
Hennig's game should come out before 2018.
You worked on Uncharted, about a lovable rogue who explores things with guns and fights off bounty hunters.
Yeah.
And you've got a Han Solo movie coming out in 2018.
That does make a lot of sense.
They might not be able to talk about it because Lucasfilm hasn't announced the title of the new movie yet.
Maybe
It might be tied in too hard.
Well, it's not like Battlefront had a name that really had anything to do with The Force Awakens.
No, but I'm saying like not every EA game is necessarily going to be unrelated to the movies beyond just using a setting.
Yeah, I mean, I hope that it isn't just like a retelling of the movie, though. Like
I don't think it would be.
Game. I mean, I'd be okay with a couple characters from that movie being in the game, but
presumably young Han Solo had more adventures than just what's in the movie, and you could probably make a whole open world game about Amy Hennig style writing about Han Solo and his wacky friends and all
He's
that.
actually a lot like Drake.
Oh, yeah. No, Drake's a lot like him.
Right. Yeah, touche.
Come on.
Yeah, touche.
But, I mean, Drake is based on every Harrison Ford character ever, and to some degree, right down to the get off my plane action.
You're right,
in Uncharted 3. So,
yeah,
it wouldn't surprise me if that was just sort of a natural fit there.
No, it makes perfect sense, man.
blindly speculating. I know nothing about this game.
I don't know about y'all, but that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
I think Matt just figured out Amy Hennig's game.
That's my thought. That's my guess.
Yeah, motive, I don't think we'll see anything.
No, I think that's way out.
Yep. Quickly, did you play Catalyst, Mirror's Edge Catalyst?
No.
I did.
Yeah?
Not a fan.
No.
Yeah, pretty disappointed in that game. So
I wasn't, it's for whatever reason, the reviews sort of like turned me off, and in the end I decided if I didn't have to play it for this show, I wasn't going to bother until later. So
I have no idea why EA greenlit that game. I really don't. I mean, the first one didn't sell very well. It's a weird concept. The second one's still a weird concept. It even seems more weird with an open world. Yeah, anyway. I was just reminiscing of E3 last year and how excited people were to see it. And then it kind of puts everything else in perspective. It makes me think about this year's E3, and I'm like, what games am I going to see that I'm going to be like, oh my god, that's awesome. And then a year later, I'm going to be sitting here going like, oh, why was I so excited for this one? Trying to temper my enthusiasm a little bit. And then EA Sports lineup, obviously, Madden, NFL 17. They're trying to make drastic changes to that. I don't know if they actually will. FIFA this year being built on the Frostbite engine. They're completely changing the engine for that. NHL actually is finally getting up to speed with the NHL games from last gen. It only took 3 or 4 years for them to finally get like a legitimate franchise mode in that. So, I'm sure EA will spend a little bit of time on its sports lineup. I know most people watching this don't care about that at all. And most of the people watching the press conference won't care about that at all either. But otherwise, EA's lineup is a little thin.
Yeah.
And last year they showed Unravel. They've already said that they're making either another Unravel or that studio's making
something else. I'm sure we'll get a way too long FIFA presentation.
Yeah.
As per usual.
Yeah. We'll probably get a look at The Sims again. Like, EA's press conferences are always like that, though, man. Like, I get why they do it. They're a huge publisher, and they need to show that they're doing mobile and all these other things. But that audience, the audience for E3, other than the 100 mainstream journalists who are sitting in the audience, no one else cares about typically like half of EA's press conferences. So it'll be interesting to see how they work in their casual stuff with all their more core stuff, and if we get to see any of the Star Wars. I don't need to see another Battlefront. Like,
no,
it's going to look the same, different models, but
different. Well, not really different maps, because Star Wars does.
It's Star Wars.
Desert and ice and city and swamp.
Yes, that's pretty much it.
That's your Star Wars gamut.
Yep, that's the big four, and that's it for the big six. So, what a whirlwind that was! We didn't even talk about everything. Like, there's so many other publishers we didn't talk about. We hardly talked about Nintendo. We didn't talk about 2K and Red Dead Redemption 2 possibly being there, or the Agent.
Well,
they just re-upped the trademark for Agent.
Well, and there was artwork going up on the side of the Figueroa Hotel downtown a couple days ago that really looked like Rockstar art.
Really?
Yeah.
It could be.
I don't know. I think we'll get into the predictions.
Yeah.
But I haven't seen the full thing because I haven't driven past there. But like, I saw some stuff that looked familiar to me.
Okay. So we're gonna go to our trailer of the week, and after we get back from the trailer of the week, we're gonna do our E3 predictions. But as always, maybe they should hold off on the questions because I'm sure our predictions are going to take a couple minutes. And so we'll just give you the cue to start sending in questions once we feel like we're wrapping up our E3 predictions. But right now, we're going to the trailer of the week. This is a trailer I talked about earlier. Horizon Zero Dawn put out a brand new trailer. I think it was to make everybody feel better about its delay.
Soften the blow.
Yeah. There hasn't been a ton of trailers for this game. In fact, we've been using that same footage of Horizon over and over for the last 12 months. It's good to get a new piece of media. This is an excellent trailer. It's called Horizon Zero Dawn Aloy. Is that how you say her name?
Aloy's
story trailer. Let's roll it.
life you've been searching. And the elders, they've been holding you back.
The girl is a curse. She came from nowhere. She is no one.
When they told me to raise you, I didn't ask questions.
Why am I an outcast? Who was my mother?
Always you pushed for answers. Push yourself to the edge. Here in the valley, we may be outcasts, but it's safe. Out there, girl, you'll be lost. You won't know where to turn or who to trust. You'll be chasing a riddle into a wilderness of mysteries. The world of the old ones. What secrets lie buried beneath their crumbling ruins? Why Earth is ours no more. These questions, Aloy, the tribe has forbidden. What if the answers are worse than not knowing?
You can help, or you can get out of my way.
Then be ready for the darkness. And be careful what you bring to light. Even if you do catch what you're after, how do you know it won't bite back?
Outcast! You came from nothing. You will die a nothing.
I came from somewhere.
Identity confirmed.
Even if it destroys me, I will see this through.
Game looks awesome.
Yep.
I was just telling Matt, there's the one shot where the big dinosaur's foot like smashes right in the frame, and I was like, there are more polygons in that foot than there were in entire levels of Super Mario 64. It's just crazy how far things have evolved. Like, it's just amazing. I'm just so
20
proud.
years makes a difference.
It really does. Just very proud to be a part of this industry and see the stuff that these geniuses are doing. Just really incredible stuff. So it has come the time for us to make our E3 predictions. Matt and I both have 5 predictions. We're going to take turns, and we'll explain briefly why we believe our prediction will come to fruition. Matt, you go first.
I think, and I don't like making this prediction, but we are not going to see a new Elder Scrolls announced at all.
Rumors have been swirling, Matt.
They have been, but I think if they had an Elder Scrolls 6 to show, they would not be doing Skyrim Remastered.
Which
and
is
I know
still
that's
just
not
a rumor.
just a rumor, but if the Skyrim Remaster is real, I think it's to make up for the fact that they don't have Elder Scrolls 6 ready this year or possibly next year.
I can see that, but it does seem like a new Elder Scrolls game should be like here.
It does, but if they, I think they've had to have all hands on deck for Fallout 4 and then Fallout 4's DLC, which cannot be done yet. So I really hope I'm wrong, but I think it's way too early for an Elder Scrolls.
Now, are you saying it won't be mentioned at all? Or maybe they would announce it and not show the game?
I think the best we'll get...
Let's specify here,
I think
Matt.
the best we'll get is kind of like it's like, now I know you're all excited for the next Elder Scrolls. Rah!
Troll.
But first, I think you're going to get like an acknowledgement that like we know this is what you want, but here's a Skyrim remaster to tide you over kind of thing.
That would be pretty heartless.
It would. It would. And I mean, I hope I'm wrong. I hope that Bethesda blows all the stops out, and even if it's not this year, they're just like, oh, hey, by the way, one more thing. Check this fantasy game out we made. It would be great. But I don't see it. I think they're going to focus on Fallout 4 DLC and Wolfenstein.
The 5 other games we talked about.
They have plenty without having an Elder Scrolls,
Yeah.
even if that is the thing I would want the most.
I hate to hear that prediction.
Not happy
I
about
can
it.
understand it, but I hate to hear it, and I hope you're wrong. How about that?
All right. I don't disagree.
My first prediction is that Battlefield 1 will be blown out at the Microsoft press conference. May not seem like a big deal. You may be like, oh, what's the big deal with that prediction? Well, the big deal is that Sony's got all the hardware. It's got the install base. So if you're EA, you would prefer to probably have that game blown out at Sony's press conference. The problem is that Sony already has this weird deal with Activision for Call of Duty. And I'm guessing behind the scenes there's some funky mojo going on where those two games cannot really be blown out in the same press conference. I would be shocked if I were wrong. And Microsoft already has like the deal with EA for EA Access, where all the games come out early on Xbox One. Just happened with Mirror's Edge Catalyst. It happens with every EA game. They're already bed buddies. Microsoft needs something big for its press conference because its first-party stuff isn't getting it done. I say it's Battlefield 1.
I think that's pretty likely. The only X factor is, I would say that Battlefront was a big Sony push, and that's also by DICE.
Yeah.
However, that could have been a Lucasfilm call, and also, like you say, Battlefront is not Battlefield, and it's not in direct competition with Call of Duty.
Yeah.
So, I rate this plausible.
That's all I can ask. At least it's plausible. All right, what's your next one?
My next one is I think Xbox will have some kind of like Oculus team up or partnership or some.
You mean other than just
other
packing
than
in the
what they
controller?
already other than that. But I think there will be. I think that will be their VR push, and on top of that, I think HoloLens might be MIA this year.
Completely, yes.
I think HoloLens, after all the price stuff and how it's like thousands of dollars for a dev, I don't know if it's ready. I think they might be giving it a year to cook.
You know, I really thought that we wouldn't see HoloLens again, really, at E3 after last year. But once Suda had been moved over to work on that department, I knew they would never put him in that position unless it was going to be a forward-facing consumer device.
I
Otherwise,
just feel like it's not ready for prime time.
because look, he is the face of something. He always has been. Like, he's charismatic. He's a great dude. He knows his stuff. He's great on stage. He's great on camera. If they were going to just let HoloLens become this thing that like universities and researchers use and this far-flung concept for only the rich and wealthy, I don't think they would have ever put him on the project.
I agree with that, but I just don't think that's happening until later.
Yeah.
I think they've got some repositioning to do.
No, I agree with you on the whole Oculus thing. I think Microsoft would love nothing more than to nestle up with Oculus because, look, they're behind the curve. Like, they did not invest in VR. They went for AR, which, with this helmet that's costs $2,000 right now. Sony invested in VR. Microsoft has been getting left in the dust by this. The best way for them to mitigate this is for them to say, we're the console that works with Oculus. And in my opinion, I completely agree with you. I think the whole Scorpio thing is just so Xbox can run Oculus to at least the fidelity of PlayStation VR. So I think that's a great prediction, and I agree with it 1,000,000%. My next one, and this is going to be a downer.
Buckle up, folks.
E3 2016 is going to be a huge disappointment. I just rained on everyone's parade. And hear me out. We're at the point of the console life cycle where E3 is always disappointing because it's right in the middle. And so all the early games that were shown when the consoles were first shown were either just released or are about to be released. And you don't get like the influx of the new IPs. Like, we will see far less new games announced at this E3 than we saw at last E3, because last E3 was when that first round of games had just finished up. So last E3 was where you see all the new game announcements. This year is where you get to actually see them in action and actually play them for the first time. Next year they come out. Next year's E3 is where all the announcements are. That's one part of it. The other part of it is that this E3 is going to push VR like you would not believe. That is the story the industry is going to try to project and push out to the mainstream media. Because don't forget, like we said earlier, this is the one chance you have to get with Yahoo and USA Today and Forbes and the New York Times and the LA Times. This is your one chance, and VR is the big push for everybody right now. And the bottom line is, people like us, people who watch GameFace, people who go to Sifted, they don't really care about VR. Like, that's kind of the dirty little secret, is the core gamers aren't really getting on board with VR. And I completely understand why, because there hasn't been compelling experiences. Sony needs to sell PlayStation VR. We've already talked about Microsoft, how we think a big topic for them is going to be saddling up with Oculus. You have Vive trying to survive, basically. Mm-hmm. Maybe they should have called it Survive. Everything is leading towards this maelstrom of people leaving E3 2016 disappointed. Nintendo has no presence other than Zelda. I'm sure Zelda's going to be amazing and blow people's minds, but that's all it's got. There's a huge contingency of people who only care about Nintendo products. It's just, to me, it's all funneling towards a week from now, on Sifted, people being like, E3 kind of sucked. Mm-hmm. Because it's just going to be a lot of stuff that we already know about. And that's just the natural cycle of it. But what makes it worse this year than other, like, down years for E3 is the VR angle. And the fact that it's going to be pushed really hard, and a lot of people don't care about VR. So, there you have it.
Well, always possible.
It is. I hope I'm completely wrong. I hope my mind is blown like it was last year at Sony's press conference. But
I hope I come out of it with a different opinion of VR.
Yeah. Well, there's a reason that Sony's press conference was so mind-blowing last year. It's because they announced all those games. The problem is now you're going to start getting those games. You can't do that every single year. So that's where I think it's headed. What's your next prediction, Matt?
This one's kind of a minor one, but I think nestled in all the Zelda hype and all the, we're not talking about NX nonsense, I think we're going to get a Western release announcement for Mother 3.
Mother 3?
Digital only. I think there's been some rumors swirling around about it.
That's a pretty big deal, though.
Yeah.
I mean, people have been waiting for this game for a long time.
Yeah, and I think it's a nice bone to throw to the hardcore Nintendo faithful who've been waiting for it for a long time.
And they're getting punished right now at E3.
Yeah. And it's one, Nintendo clearly doesn't want to wander into the retail shelf space so much, but you can do some stuff in the digital store that can tide people over and give the Wii U maybe a little boost.
Yeah.
Or at
least it is on life support.
At least a reason to turn it on.
Yeah.
So aside from Tokyo Mirage Sessions.
Yeah, I just got that yesterday, actually, for review.
So, I don't have any real evidence of that.
I realized when I opened up that package that will probably be the last Wii U game I get for review from Nintendo for, ever. Until Zelda comes out. Mm-hmm. Which, next year?
Yeah.
That's crazy to think about.
Well, what if the NX slips? Does Zelda go with it?
I don't know. I don't even want to talk about that.
We're in crazy town here.
Forget about that. We're not in
I think
we're not in crazy town. That's the problem.
I think we'll see. I think there will be a Mother 3 announcement.
Yeah.
I have no proof of that except that it just seems like something they could do that would be nice.
Yeah. I mean, the only other Wii U game I can think of is, Paper Mario?
Yeah. I don't think we have we'll probably get a date for that.
Yeah.
Or an announcement that it's slipping to 2017.
Yeah.
But,
what are they going to sell for Christmas? What the hell are they doing?
I don't know. Memories.
Pre-orders for Zelda. Get your memories, yeah? Step right up. I like that one. I like that prediction a lot. My next prediction is, this one might be a little bold. Sea of Thieves will be a Game of Show contender. I think by the time the show's over, it will be on the hot list. I'm saying top 5 to 10 games. A lot of here's the thing. A lot of publications for their best of E3 awards now, dude, they just totally cop out. And they're just here's 20 games that we liked. It's it wasn't like a GT where we picked 10 and we ranked them 10 down to 1. Those meetings got intense. I think people just got tired of arguing after E3 because they're all dead, and they're like, let's just pick 20 games that we like. So, it's not as big a deal as it would have been 5 or 6 years ago when people actually like made the hard decisions to have Sea of Thieves in there. But it's just, to me, it's a genre that's really hot right now. It's an MMO, but it's completely different. It's not a shooter. It's not like some weird fantasy title. It's just, I look at all the games we just talked about today. It's one of the most unique and interesting games. And one thing I know about Rare, even after they had the exodus of talent, is that their products are high quality. Whether you like them or not, who knows? Like, they made the best Kinect games. Like, whatever they work on, when it comes out, it's like a high-quality product. And so they're finally doing, like, a full-fledged game. They've been underground. They've been waiting all this time to make a real game. And now Microsoft has forced them to do Kinect crap. Like, this is, like, their proving ground right here. This is them saying to Microsoft, oh, we can still make real games. And so if they are to fail with this game, I don't know if we'd ever see another proper console Rare game. There's just too much on the line. There's still way too many creative people there. Still way too many funny people there. It's completely unique. I just think when the dust settles, this game is going to make a big impression.
I hope so.
I do too. Not just for the sake of me being right. I just would like to see Rare make a good game again.
Yeah,
so.
And I would like to see some good pirate stuff that doesn't require me to play Assassin's Creed around it.
There you go.
So,
you're next.
I think, and this might be a little bold too, but I think we will see a GTA 5 story DLC mentioned.
That is bold.
And I think we
How
will
many
see
years after release?
Many. But like I said, the Figueroa Hotel has some art that's up on it.
I think I saw somebody say earlier on the chat, I just caught it out of the corner of my eye, that it was like an A-Team game?
Is it an A-Team game?
They said an A-Team game or Agent? One or the other.
It looks like Rockstar art. I haven't seen the whole thing. But you're gonna get something out of them, and I think something Red Dead is likely either a remaster of Red Dead Redemption or an actual sequel.
Yeah.
Either way, because like it was, the Figueroa Hotel is like 3 columns, and the one that was like half done was like the one on the right, and it looked like Rockstar art to me.
That art style.
That art style, and it looked like it looked kind of like a Steve Jobsy tech billionaire sort of dude. So I figured it was something they're satirizing. So it's probably either GTA or it could be Agent. I don't know if this Agent thing is real. And then the center was still like the outline, where you get that kind of outline where the people who are making the billboard thing are going to paint it down.
Yeah.
And it sure looked like a poncho. And like you say Rockstar and poncho in the same sentence, I'm thinking Red Dead Redemption.
Red Dead, baby. Yep.
So that's what I'm thinking. We're going to actually see some movement out of Rockstar.
Ben Hill is saying Red Dead is an NX exclusive. Yeah, right. That'll never happen.
That's a bizarro world.
Red Dead will never appear on a Nintendo console, let alone be an NX exclusive.
Can you even say dead in a Nintendo game title?
Sorry, you have to change the title for releasing it on our system.
Red Tired Redemption.
Oh, if you guys have questions, you should start sending them in right now. We both have like 1 or 2 predictions left. All right, my next prediction is... This one's probably a no-brainer. No release date, even, for Kingdom Hearts 3. I think they'll show it. They may even show a gameplay demo, but I don't think they'll even give you, like, Q4 2018. I don't think they'll give you anything. I think, one, they've been burned so many times by giving up release dates.
Yeah, I think that's the key, is they have no idea.
And they're sitting here eating crow right now over Final Fantasy 15, still answering questions about Versus 13 and what happened for 10 years. Like, I think Square Enix is going to be a lot more careful about setting expectations going forward.
To say nothing about that Agnes philosophy thing they did years ago, which came to nothing.
Yeah. And you know what? I wouldn't be surprised even if Kingdom Hearts came out next year. Even like Q1 or Q2 of next year. I just don't think that they're going to share the release date until like a few months out.
I think Kingdom Hearts 3 is way out.
How far?
End of next year minimum.
Yeah, that's about right. I think Q4 next year, Kingdom Hearts 3. My guess.
I think it'll slip to 2018. But I think they'll announce it for Q4.
It depends on what else they have next year. It depends on when the Final Fantasy VII Remake comes out, honestly.
True.
I think it'll all hinge on that. All right, so here we are, our last 2 predictions for E3 2016.
This one, I think, has pretty good chance of being right. EA will not show Visceral's Star Wars game at all.
Yeah, we kind of talked about that. So wait, you're saying not at all? Not even like that 10-second like...
The 10-second thing is like my best case scenario.
Okay.
Like, I pretty much expect them to say nothing about it.
Nothing.
Best we'll get is a Battlefront expansion pack. Like, hey, check out the Death Star expansion pack coming this fall.
That's so hard. If you spent that much money on that IP,
right? But
to have an E3 come and go.
But again, what I'm saying is, and I had to do some work with Lucasfilm last fall. Lucasfilm don't care. Lucasfilm's the honey badger of showing content, and if Lucasfilm says no, we don't want you to do that, EA has no choice.
No, you're right. Yeah,
put it this way: even Disney has to answer to Lucasfilm.
No, you're right. Yeah,
and they paid $4 billion for them.
I know,
but they still have to listen to what they say. It's the best deal you could. If you ever get sold for $4 billion, get the same deal Lucasfilm did because they got the power.
Yeah. All right, so here comes my last prediction, and people may not like this one either. After E3 2016, your opinion, and Sam's opinion, of virtual reality is going to change. And that is because you're finally going to start seeing real games for virtual reality. All these little crappy little mini game things, we're already starting to see it. Sony's already announced 3 VR games in the last week, which is weird leading up to E3 that they'd announced that many games. But this E3 is when we're going to finally start really seeing the games. Like last year, it was all tech demos. Like even companies like Ubisoft and big publishers, they were just showing these little things that they've been fiddling around with. At this E3, you're going to start seeing games where the developers have been working with the hardware now for a year and a half or 2 years. You're going to start seeing the real VR games, the real VR experiences. And I think when that happens, I think people are going to be a lot more open to the idea of VR. I think people are going to be a lot more willing to open up their pocketbooks and their wallets for VR. And I think kind of this whole negative, this pervading negative opinion around virtual reality will slowly start to dissipate. I think people will start getting excited for PlayStation VR. I think people, now that you can actually buy a Vive and probably get an Oculus at a store, I think you're going to start to see, finally, for virtual reality, start to turn up on the upswing. I think E3 2016 is the turning point for VR.
So this is sort of the counterpoint to your E3 2016 will be a disappointment prediction.
I think people will be disappointed by that when they come out of E3 and say the big story is VR, it doesn't suck. Think about that.
True.
Even though they'll be like, it doesn't suck, but that's the best thing I could say about E3 2016, it does go back to what I was saying.
I suppose it is disappointing if you come out of E3 and your best description is like, I feel all right.
Yeah. Yep. So that's it. Those are our E3 2016 predictions. Feel free to make predictions in the comments. You only got a day. I'll probably stay up all night trying to get this up so that people who couldn't watch the live stream will be able to watch the archive tomorrow before the actual show kicks off on Sunday. Because it really does kick off on Sunday now, which is insane. But yeah, so throw your predictions in the comments. Love to see them. Go crazy, because you never know.
Yeah.
Something that you think might be crazy, like, I don't know, Shenmue 3, might actually happen. You never know. So I'll be interested to see some pie in the sky stuff.
If you just listed the contents of last year's Sony press conference before it happened, everyone would have laughed you off the forum.
Oh, no, that'll never happen. You're crazy.
Like, that's like the most fanboy, crazy town lineup you could imagine, and then it happened.
Yep. Okay, let's see. Here's from Snowpiercer. We always answer a question from Snowpiercer every time. Out of all the rumored games being shown and announced, which game do you see has the most potential to sweep the Game of Show mindshare? That's a good question.
Yeah. You know what I'm going to say? I'm going to say we haven't seen it yet.
Yeah?
I think there's something we don't know about that's going to be like, whoa.
But that means that it probably won't be playable, though.
You never know.
Yeah, I mean, there are rare occasions.
What if Shadow of Mordor 2 pops up and it's amazing?
Man. That could be. I can see that game maybe doing it.
And I'm like, I think Shadow of Mordor 1 is a little overrated, but it was a critical darling, and if a sequel is shown that does more and more stuff better, I think that's going to end up on a lot of Game of Show shortlists for various outlets.
I don't think there's a definitive answer to that. I think you could
I think Sea of Thieves is a good answer if they show a respectable chunk of it.
I would say Mass Effect Andromeda. Haven't seen anything of it. We've been teased out the wazoo. I know the game's going to be good. People love Mass Effect. That would be my pick. My guess. Not even really a pick, just totally a guess. Here's a good one. Justin Horman. Can you remember your first time going to E3? Could you tell us about it?
Yeah. First time I went to E3 was 1999. I had just waited in line 13 hours for Episode 1 tickets in Santa Clara. And then my friends and I piled into a van and drove straight down to L.A. to go to E3 that week. And we were in under my friend's audio company. He did audio stuff, which I was not really part of, but screw it. Yeah, I wanted to see it.
Yeah.
I'd never been to E3 before. And I remember walking in, and it was 99, so it was Episode 1, and so the Nintendo had the full-size pod racer hanging on their booth, and I mean, you'd seen pictures, but I didn't. You weren't ready for it when you first walk in.
I have a story about 99 as well.
And I remember walking in and just thinking, I have never been in a room in which I was interested in so many things surrounding me. It was just it was impossible to look anywhere and not see something I wanted to go to.
Yeah.
And it was like nothing else. And I mean, I've never missed an E3 since then. So this is E3, I think, 18.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine a scenario in which I wouldn't want to go forever. I'll be in a wheelchair in my 80s going.
And by then they'll be letting the public in anyway.
Yeah, we're already creeping there.
Yeah. So my first E3 was in Atlanta in '97, I think it was. But I actually don't want to tell a story about that because really it was okay, but it was really freaking hot. That's pretty much all I remember about it. And the
There's a reason they don't go back.
Yeah, the hotels were a long ways away from the convention center there, and by the time you walked from your hotel to the convention center, you were literally completely drenched in sweat. And then you walked into the convention center, and it just deep froze you. And you almost feel like crystals falling off of your face, from the sweat just crystallizing, instantly. It was honestly not very good. It was miserable. It was enough. I was already into games at that point, and I thought I was in college, and I thought I wanted to become a journalism major and cover games, and that was enough to convince me that that's what I wanted to do. But the first E3 I went to in LA was also in '99, and I had gone to '97. I missed the next year. I think the next year it might have even just been at CES. I can't remember. But then I went back for '99. I had saved all my money. To go because my whole goal was I was about to graduate from college and I wanted to be able to get a job. So I wanted to go out and network with people. And I was running my fan site while I was in college called Street Level Gaming. And there was us and 3 other websites on the whole internet that did games back then. And I just wanted to go and network and hopefully meet somebody so I could get a job when I graduated. And I had saved my money for 2 years to go to this. Literally, $10, $15 a month, putting it in, an envelope for that day, when I would go. And so, booked the tickets, applied, they let me in with Street Level Gaming. My website was good enough to get me in. I was totally stoked. And packed it all up. I had talked to my friends about it forever, because all my friends in college were huge gamers. They're like, oh, it's so awesome, you're going back again. Go to the airport, waiting at the gate, they call my flight, I go get on the plane. I sit down on the plane, and I tap my pockets, and my wallet is gone. And I had all cash. All the money I had saved, all in cash. And I look out the little portal of the airplane, and I can see my wallet sitting on a chair. It had fallen out of my pocket, and I could see it at the gate. Oh. And we're taxiing out, and I literally ripped off my seatbelt and ran to the front of the airplane. And I was she's like, sit down. I'm like, no. I'm like, my wallet is right there. And she's like, oh, okay. She's like, just sit down, I'll radio back and have them get the wallet for you. I'm like, okay. So I sit down. They keep taxiing. I'm peeking at the last little edge of the window to see if my wallet is still there. And the last frame I had of it, I can still see the wallet sitting on the chair. I see her get on her radio. She's like, the young man here, and I was a young man then, and I was scared crapless. like, the young man here, he left his wallet. We could see it through the window, still sitting on the chair. And she's like, okay, they got it. And it's all good. And I'm like, hallelujah. Like, I had saved 2 years for this. So basically what happens, like, the whole way we're flying over, she's coming up to me reassuring me. I remain in contact with back at the gate, and they put it in a safe box. Your wallet's going to be on the next flight, so when you get there, you just got to sit there for like 2 hours and wait for the next flight from Philadelphia to come into LAX. And I was like, thank God, thank you so much, blah, 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 blah. Like, a couple guys on the flight were like, you know, just in case you need some money to eat something. Like, a guy gave me like $20. Like, people were very awesome about it. I get to LAX, I land. I've never been in LA before. Like, I literally just flew like 3,000 miles all by myself. Like, people thought I was crazy for doing this in the first place. This story's going on way too long. Anyway, I wait. The wallet never shows up. Ever. It never shows up. I sat there for 10 hours waiting for that wallet to show up. It never shows up. I call Continental Airlines. I'm like, what's going on? They're like, oh, we've got it. It just won't, go to your hotel or whatever. Dude, I had to bum money from people at the airport to get a cab to my crappy Red Roof Inn I was staying at. I called my mom, and I was like an adult at this point, and 21 or whatever, 20. I'm like, I have no money. And I told her the story. She felt so bad. She wired me money. I had to walk through the ghetto in UCLA to get to the place where they wired the money. Like, it's the only place. She chose some weird wiring place, and like, it was insane, dude. Long story short.
Yeah, the area around
USC.
The area around USC back then was, I remember one of the first assignments I ever had was to drive, we had to go down for a symposium on games as art at USC in January 2001. And I'd never been in that, I'd been to LA before, but I'd never been to that part of LA. And I remember driving around like USC to get around to the entrance. And like the guy I was driving with goes, is that car on fire over there? Like it was a rough part of town.
Well, I had lived in North Philadelphia for college at Temple like that whole time, so the neighborhood didn't even really bother me. But I did notice that I'm like, I'm going to pick up this wired money as someone who stands out in the neighborhood or whatever. Like, it was a bad idea. So anyway, I never got my money back. My girlfriend at the time went to the airport. And they said, we have the wallet, but they made up some lame excuse why they couldn't give it to us. She goes to get it. Guess what? All the money's gone.
Wow.
Continental Airlines stole like $3,000 from me. And I've never flown them since. Ever. And I never will. I don't know if they exist anymore, but I will never fly
I don't know if they're still around.
Continental Airlines. They stole money I spent 2 years saving.
Wow.
So basically, there was a Domino's next to the Red Roof that I was staying at. I bought large pizzas, like 3 of them, and lived off pizza the whole E3.
Wow.
Dude.
You got some stories,
Oh,
man.
I have.
Like, nothing that bad has ever happened to me on a trip, ever.
Man, there are stories I cannot tell on camera, let me tell you. Lots of them. All right, so let's answer 1 or 2 more questions here. We're getting up there with time. I'm sorry, that story took way too long. I need to figure out, like, a truncated version of it. But you lose a little bit of the drama if you don't tell the whole, like, sitting on the plane part of it. Oh, Shane, who do you think will win the Conn Smythe Award? If the Penguins win, Sidney Crosby. I don't think he deserves it, though. I think Phil Kessel deserves it. I think they'll give it to Crosby. If the Sharks win, Martin Jones, hands down. I hate that guy.
Vin Hill 104 asks if I think would a No Man's Sky PSVR announcement make me happy, and would I consider buying a PSVR headset if they did? I already have a PSVR headset pre-ordered. I don't know if I'm going to keep it, but I do have a pre-order on Amazon because Ace Combat 7 has my attention. So I am kind of hoping for some Ace Combat 7 news. No Man's Sky in VR, maybe? I don't know. That game has to be good first. So we'll see. If it's good, yeah, I'd like to play it in VR, but I would probably just play it on like Oculus or Vive because I think I'm going to end up playing the PC version of that more than anything else.
Oh, the Pactor Party winner, Snowpiercer, brought this up, and someone was saying they don't see Snowpiercer in the chat. Well, that's because that's not actually his name in the chat. It's like Transpiergian.
Transpersonage or what?
Yeah. So
we're Americans. We don't know these other languages.
Yeah. So we selected the winner, and we messaged him on the website and sent him 4 emails, and he's never replied. Not only does he have tickets waiting to Packers Party, he has a swag bag with like 3 full free games and like a couple T-shirts and like he won't reply to us. And so we're in this weird position where Packers Party is in like 4 days, and we have these 2 tickets, and it's like, what do we do? Like, how long do you wait? It's like you don't want to just like give it to somebody else because somebody did win it. It's like I don't know what to do about it. We're actually at a weird impasse with that whole thing, like. And because we have such limited information for all our users, like this is where it bites us in the butt that we don't collect like user information because we can actually give somebody something they probably want. But we cannot get a hold of the winner. So I guess worst case scenario, we would try to give the tickets for the party to somebody else. No matter what, we want to try to get the swag bag to the person who won. So I guess that's the best way I can answer it.
Right.
But yeah, the guys will not reply to emails, direct messages on Sifted, nothing. It's just like complete radio silence. Is there one more? Give me his tickets. I'm in LA. Rewind Play Labs. Well, you know what? If it comes down to it and we cannot give it to somebody who can make it here in time, then we might consider that. So,
how about Furikuri Killa? What's been the oddest or greatest tchotchke you've ever snagged at E3?
Oh, gosh. Wait, oddest or what?
Oddest or greatest?
Greatest. I got like at E3 1999, I got an extremely rare Pikachu card that literally they gave out. I think they said they had a stack of like 100 of them, and I just happened to be there when like the girl came out and handed them out. It's like gold star. So I mean, they're worth like $600 now or something like that, and I cannot find the card. I can't find it. I have no idea where it is. I have a Pokemon card somewhere worth $600, and I cannot find it. I had put it in a place. I thought I knew where it was. I went to look at it longingly. Can't find it. But as far as like value, that's the most valuable thing I was given at E3 by a mile.
I think the greatest thing...
That was when Pokemon was just launching, by the way.
Yeah.
Like, that was like, hey, here's this new thing we have called Pokemon. I looked at the card. I'm like, what the hell is this yellow rat thing? Like, now it's worth $600.
Always keep the Nintendo stuff safe.
Yeah.
It's going to be worth something. My thing would be, I think it was probably 2001, I think. I went to do an interview for Extended Play with Working Designs, back when Working Designs still existed.
Yeah.
And maybe it was 2000, it was in there. But did an interview with Victor Ireland, who was the head of Working Design, the guy who, the founder and head of Working Designs. And we talked about, because I was a big Working Designs fan on Sega CD and everything, and I told him I have every Working Designs game you've ever published, Saturn, everything except one, which was Cosmic Fantasy 2, because I didn't have a TurboGrafx CD until later, and I could never find a copy of that. All the others, I'd collected all the other Working Designs games, and he's like, "Oh wow, that's really cool. It's like good to meet fans and stuff." And he got up and left, and I was talking to their PR woman, and like we were kind of like exchanging email stuff because that was back in the day when you needed to get an actual tape of B-roll of the game. Like they had to give you an actual beta cassette, and we would have to take bags and bags of beta cassettes back to San Francisco and pull the B-roll
Put them in a tape and then digitize them.
And while we're doing that, Vic Ireland comes back in the room and hands me a sealed copy of Cosmic Fantasy 2. And I was like, what? And he's like, I keep our whole library on site just in case something like this happens. And I'm just like, wow. And like so that's probably the coolest thing I ever got at E3. I mean, it's kind of not really the thing itself isn't like valuable to everybody, but to me that was like the most amazing thing, that this guy who made all these games I loved or translated all these games I loved came back and was like, here, let me complete your collection for you. So yeah, Cosmic Fantasy 2.
Also at that E3 '99, there was Eternal Darkness on the N64.
Yes, I played that.
Yeah. On the N64. It was like a 3-room demo where you just went up this clock tower up to the top and there was like birds up there.
Yeah, it was very, very little to indicate what it would become.
Yeah, it was really crazy. So I think that's it. We're kind of running out of time here. We've been rocking for almost 3 hours now, which is actually at this point like a requisite episode of GameFace. But before we go, we have some very, very important business to handle, and that is the list of Sifted Elite members who have been added since we were robbed. Without you folks, we would not be sitting here right now. That monitor that Sam is using right now, you paid for it. This soundboard that's sitting here right now, you paid for it. Thank you. I'm tearing up a little bit. Like, thank you so much. I can't say it enough. I don't even know how to express it, how thankful I am for what you people did. Not even just like our users, but just random people donated us money. And unfortunately, like the way our payments were set up is like if they weren't registered on Sifted, we didn't know who they were at all. Like in our database, it just says non-user. And some of these people who aren't even members of Sifted came and donated like $200, $300. Like, it's just unbelievable. So thank you, and want to do what I can here, just give you a little bit of recognition. These are the new members of Sifted Elite since the robbery happened. And that we got Mark, we got Kevin Holdsworth, we got Dayu Sex, we got Vox91, we got Burko's wife. I like that. I like that Burko got his wife involved. I even saw like a message from her. Really appreciate that. Good to get some diversity on the site. Christos, Diablos, Tasca, Kevin O, Ryan, Jonathan Sasson, Talik, Zero Kaiser, Thomas Thorson, Nefrit, Jaylin, BK1620, Ron Zaid, TV Hardy, Demoas, oh dear. Stoti, there's a 69. I knew we'd have to have a 69 on the site somewhere. There's always one. Kenaran, Victor Dubai, Cell Cow, Wacky Tacky, Deceed, Toppy, Digital Noodle, Ethernaut Zeta, James H, Mucon 7, Nexus 6, McKeaton, Dan Dave Taylor, the man with 3 first names, Kadaz. Is that Chubibi or Chub?
I don't know, or Chubaby.
Chubaby.
Yeah.
The Comic Book Gamer Guy, Slagathor, Red Dragon 220, M-Man 11111, Mouse Lol 5, Panda Stick. That's a good one. Panda Stick. Rodrigo Garfias, Pain of Demise, Ex-Actress, Robbins... A Famous Guy, Akidia, 00, Mujo, Malakor, Arduenas, 815. Okay, those are the elites. Now, we have a whole other list for Sifted Elite All-Stars. These are the people who gave us a lot of money. And man, you guys are frickin' awesome. Nefarious Duck, Wally, TV Hardy, Bentley. Bentley, by the way, is a brand new Sifted employee.
Really?
Just started today. Yep, he will be curating over E3, so show him some love. He should have his staff tag on the site going forward, so keep an eye out for him. Stealthy, Zet Saber, Wind Waker, Dyson XP, Robert Haggis, Cornelius Zorn.
Robust Haggis.
Robust Haggis, my apologies. Cornelius Zorn, Barefoot Rat, Kenoran, J_M, Mr. Sweet, The Stand User, Ryan, The Incomparable Vin Hill, Grand Theft Gator, Best Jeppy, Lazy Gamer, Toshman 666, Ronzai, Jor, Salvatron, M. Shane Clark, Nick, Rigor Mortis, Sir Ralphus, Digital Noodle, OMG Mr. T, KDE Bolt, and Solarcan. Yeah! You guys are freaking awesome! Awesome, awesome, awesome! Yes! We have the best community on the frickin' internet, man. I'm not just saying that. It's not even close. Show me another website that's better people than these people. There isn't one. So thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I can't say it enough. Place is still kind of in shambles. Like we have no set, really. Like they took everything for our set. But we do have the equipment. I am taking it out of here tonight, which really sucks. Like our landlord still hasn't installed the steel door on the front. We have like the new like locks and everything. I just don't feel comfortable leaving anything here right now.
I think we've proven that the locks don't necessarily matter if you have a giant spinning razor blade.
Yeah, exactly. He did put like steel plates in or whatever, but until they get the front door done, I'm not leaving anything here. But it's totally worth it. You know, if anything, it's a bitch getting this show together today, to be honest. Like, it was hard, but I just kept thinking the whole time that what all the things that people have done for us over the last week and a half, no matter what it took, we needed to get a show out there. So that's what we did. It's not ideal. We had one camera. Thanks, Sam, for hooking us up with that. But we made it happen. And so thank you for your support. Cannot wait to hang out with you guys for E3. Matt, Sam, and I are going to be hanging out with you guys for every press conference. We'll be doing pre-shows before a press conference. We'll be hanging out with you guys while the press conference is going on. And then we'll do a 30-minute post-show after every single one. So, like I said, look out for the full E3 plan on the site tomorrow. Everybody have an excellent weekend. And if you guys stuck around with us on your Friday night to hang out with us, that's amazing. So, everyone have a great Friday, great Saturday. We'll see you Sunday for E3 because it is on. GameFace is up and out.